their road trip out on the West Coast. So here is B.J. Upton and Beckett. First ball swinging. There is Pedroia. Just like that, one away. B.J. Upton had 4 home runs in the league championship series against the Red Sox last year. He hit 2 of them against Josh Beckett, but he has not hit a home run, not against Beckett, not against anybody so far this year, in 98 at bats now.
Well, he was injured. He's actually hit. This is his spring training, and it's tough to play in the big leagues trying to work yourself into shape.
But here now is Carl Crawford. Crawford hitting .331. Takes a called strike with a fastball from Josh Beckett. The Beckett trying to find himself. This is the guy, a 20-game winner 2 years ago, who was untouchable in the postseason as the Red Sox won the World Series. But except for his first start against Tampa Bay back on April the 7th, that's not the Beckett the Red Sox have been seeing. He does get a couple of quick strikes here to Carl Crawford.
I talked about the struggles he's had the last 5 starts, and it really has been that fastball. So look for him to try to establish the fastball early in the game, trying to hit his spots and go off speed afterwards.
High and tight. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Crawford using the pink bat. You'll see a lot of major leaguers using the pink bat as Major League Baseball supports breast cancer awareness. They'll be using the pink wristbands, pink ribbon decals as well, as you see there. And that's a foul, a real desperate kind of a hack on that one. In addition to the awareness campaign, Major League Baseball is hosting an online auction for the game. And you could buy one of those pink bats at MLB.com, with the proceeds being used to help find a cure for breast cancer. Check it out at MLB.com. 1-2 the count. That's hit very softly. He's got great speed. Here's Lowell. Oh, not nearly in time.
Well, that was an excellent play there by Crawford, just to put the ball in play. He will do that. He fights off the pitches with 2 strikes. And this is a breaking ball down, and he just reaches out, pokes it, and he gets a good start out of the batter's box. And watch this. He just pokes at it, and he's out of the batter's box very quickly. Made a very difficult play for Mike Lowell, who makes the play, but not in time. That's what speed will do for you. It'll get you a lot of infield hits.
So now, Evan Longoria. He had 5 RBIs here yesterday against the Red Sox. He's had 21 RBIs against the Red Sox this year in the first 9 games against them. Nearly half of his season's total of RBIs.
Well, last week, Crawford ran wild. So we'll see if he wants to take those liberties again with the Red Sox. He stole 6 bases
in 1 game against Boston last Sunday. And that fastball is in there for a strike.
It's interesting talking to Joe Madden before the game. He talked about the Carl Crawford's not only his ability to steal the base, but he gets in the pitcher's head. We saw in yesterday's game, John Lester threw over 5 times to keep Crawford close, then ended up giving up a home run to Evan Longoria. Changed the focus a little bit, got in his head. Beckett didn't focus on the pitch he was making, or Lester didn't focus on the pitch he was making, and made a mistake.
Lester is another guy who's started slowly this year. For the second half of last year, there was nobody better in either league than John Lester, but his ERA so far this year is 6.31. Beckett's 6.75. Way outside. He tried a little slide step there, but he missed the strike zone badly. Nice save there by Jason Varitek. 1 ball, 1 strike.
And that's the effect that a base stealer will have on you, because if you give any of your attention to the base steal, that means you can't give the hitter 100% concentration. And that's the effect that base stealers have on pitchers. And make no mistake about it, Beckett is aware that Crawford could take off any moment.
Crawford jumps safely back to the bag.
Well, we're going to talk about, the art of stealing bases. You have to make sure you take a big enough lead so that you have to dive back. That's the theory Maury Wills had, and it has to be a green light, red light kind of thing. You can't say, is he going to the plate or is he coming here? It immediately on his first move, it has to be like a red light, which means stop, or a green light means he's go. You got to be able to accelerate right away in order to, to steal a base.
Well, he hasn't had to dive back in either of those last 2 throws,
which means he can get a bigger lead.
There he goes. And a high by Papa. Shallow left center field. Look out, guys. And it is caught by the shortstop Nick Green as he was bumped from behind by Jason Bay.
You saw that one coming. Nick Green went back, and because it was up so high, had time to get underneath it. But sometimes in a stadium with a loud crowd, the outfielder doesn't always hear the call. But no harm done.
It did look like Bay was calling him off, though. I mean, what's supposed to happen there?
Well, the outfielder has priority, but a lot of times when the infielder's camped underneath it, the outfielder should back off. But if he calls it, it is the responsibility of the infielder to get out of the way and let the outfielder play the ball.
So 2 down, Crawford back at first, and here is Pat Burrell. That one toward the wall, high in the air and off the top of the wall. Crawford is going to be waved. The throw goes into second base. Pedroia home. Please! And the Rays lead 1-0.
And a good job there by Crawford to hustle all the way around. And they may have made a mistake having the throw go into second base, but they're trying to keep the runner from getting to second base. That's a tough decision that you have to make out there. Burrell took this high fastball and just drilled it off the top of the wall. And Crawford realizes it's going to be off the wall. Now he's hustling all the way, never slows down. Good job by the third base coach waving him home. And he just barely makes it. But if the throw would have gone toward the plate, they may have stopped him. But since the throw went to second base, he let him go.
1-0 Tampa Bay. Burrell got only the single because Bay did throw to second base. And here is Willie Ibar. Ibar, switch hitter, batting left-handed, hitting .219. He's getting the start tonight at first base rather than Carlos Pena, who is leading the league in home runs and also has over 30 RBIs. And the curveball hangs up and away.
Well, when this ball goes off the top of the wall, if they throw the ball toward the plate, they probably would have stopped him. But you can see Bay has already thrown that way. Now the Pedroia has to catch it and then fire to the plate. That's a longer throw from second base than it would have been if the throw would have been coming from shortstop on a line to the plate.
Now, it seemed to me there was either lack of communication or they assumed that Crawford was easily going to score on that ball off the wall. Because I agree, when Bay fielded it, I thought he's got to come home with the throw, but he just assumed Crawford was going to score and went to second base with it.
Well, in talking to Jason before the ball game, he said most of the time when that ball's hit off the wall, you have to throw to second base. And in doing so, you keep the guy that hit the ball from taking the extra base. But in this case, they may have had a shot at stopping Crawford at third if the throw would have come toward the plate. But that's the split decision that you make. And remember, he's standing out there with his back to home plate. He's back there with his back to home plate, so someone's got to tell him where to throw the ball. And you see Green is lined up for the throw, but then again, Lowell wasn't. The third baseman is supposed to be in line with home plate if you're going to go to the plate. So I don't know exactly what they do. They do things differently here because of the short porch in left field sometimes.
Bay said before the game, you don't really have to pick up the cutoff man or the relay man most of the time unless you're throwing home.
He said he mostly just grabs it and fires to hold the guy to a single.
There goes the runner from first with 2 down, and the ball is pulled foul by Ibar, so the count still 3 balls and 2 strikes.
Watch Carl Crawford right here. He kind of slows down to watch it. I think that's why there might have been a play at the plate. With 2 outs, Carl Crawford should have been running full out anyways, but because he slowed down to watch whether it was going out or something, I think it made it more of a chance, because that's not full speed right there. He's being a spectator, and he ends up getting in there, but just barely.
Now the foul, as again Burrow will go back to first.
And with 2 outs, he shouldn't be waiting for anything. He's just going, and if it's out of the ballpark, Tom Foley, the third base coach, will tell him it's out and you can try it home. But otherwise, you've got to go, and I think it was that hesitation that allowed there even to be a thought of a play at home plate.
It was odd that he slowed up as he did, as if we weren't sure how many outs there were. The runner going, the ball is lined into left field, a base hit. Burrow, who is not very fast, will stop at second base as Bay gets it back in. Quite an at bat there by Ibar.
Yeah, I think what happened with Crawford is when he was running, he didn't know where the bag was. He was watching the ball, and I think that's why he had to chop his steps in order to hit the bag. But he should have been just running through, as you mentioned. But watch, see, he's watching the ball.
Right.
See, and now he doesn't know. Now he looks, see, he has to look down to find the bag, which he should not have been doing, but that was the way he was running on that particular play. He was running to see where he was watching the ball all the way. And a lot of times when you watch the ball, you do not know exactly where second base is, so you slow up and then hit it.
Now Ben Zobrist comes up, a run is in, an 8-pitch at bat there for Willie Ibar before he gets the base hit at the left field. So now Zobrist, who has hit 5 home runs this year and 64 at bats. He's also a switch hitter. And that's a foul. Out of play.
The one thing you notice when you watch the Tampa Bay Rays, we saw it last year, the athleticism on their roster. And you see Carl Crawford, he had a full scholarship to Nebraska. He was going to be an option quarterback there. He was a 26-point averaging in basketball in high school at Jefferson Davis High School in Texas. And B.J. Upton, tremendous athlete as well. And they've really changed the dynamic of baseball, I think, in the American League East, where it used to be about power, now it's about athletes.
The one thing I'm noticing is they're all having pretty good swings at Beckett. Even when they foul the pitches back, they're on the good part of the bat when they're fouling them back. They're not on the handle or off the end. He is not getting the ball in on any of the hitters. We've had one swing and miss by Crawford on a fastball, but other than that, they have made contact with his fastball.
That's a called strike.
Looks like a fastball, but it's had to be a little slider or something, a cutter.
1-2. Well, it didn't have the speed that he normally has, 91 miles an hour, but it had a little movement.
Yeah, a little movement, late movement too, pretty good. Late movement.
Ball at second, Ibar at first. Now look at that movement, back and over the plate, strike 3 call. And Zobrist gets into it with Scott Barry, the plate umpire. The Rays get the first run of the game. Now Matt Garza, the young Tampa Bay ace, will take the hill. The Red Sox are coming up. In the background, Dustin Pedroia, the first 2 hitters. Pedroia, last year's most valuable player in the American League. 1-0 Tampa Bay. Here's the Red Sox batting order presented by Taco Bell. Jacoby Ellsbury leads off center field. He stole home the last time we were here a couple of weeks ago. Pedroia hitting .325, second base. David Ortiz still looking for that first home run, the DH. Jason Bay in left field, 33 batted in. Mike Lowell at third base, 28 RBIs. J.D. Drew in right field, back in the lineup. He's got a tight quad. Jeff Bailey at first base in place of the injured Kevin Youkilis. Jason Varitek, the veteran catcher, hitting 8th, and Nick Green is the shortstop, batting 9th. Going up against Matt Garza, and Garza has really had it over a lot of teams since sometime about the middle of last year, but especially had it over the Red Sox.
Well, no question about it. Look at that opponent's batting average. I mean, 41 innings, only 24 hits. Lowest in the American League, that batting average against. And when he's good, he is good. When he's locked in, he is shutting down the opponent. In games where he struggles, it can get away from him.
Right there at the knees, fastball for a called strike. He throws hard. I was asking his catcher, Deona Navarro, about him, and he got very animated because he said this guy is so fun to catch and so easy to catch. He's a catcher's dream. Strike 2 on the outside corner.
Yeah, he got animated in a good way. Now, last year in a game in Texas, he and Matt Garza got into it on the mound, kind of in each other's face, kind of a little shoving match back in the dugout, but he could not speak more effusively about Garza. He was raving about how much fun it is to catch him.
The 0-2 pitch. Down and away. There's that two-seamer, that sinking fastball that he features. 1-2. Ellsbury hitting .294. We're talking about Crawford and base stealing. Ellsbury has been the Red Sox base stealer. 15 steals, 3 times caught. Off the outside with that fastball. 2-2 the count. Well, Garza always battles his emotions, and his manager Joe Madden pointing out that after that run-in with Deona Navarro, that he kind of was able to realize that he had to hold those things in check on the field, use them, channeling them in a positive way. Right center field, and Zobrist. A lot of room out there here at Fenway Park. 1 away. They were facing Texas on June 8th of last year. Garza and Navarro, after this 2-run homer by the Rangers' Herman Duran, had a heated discussion on the mound. They later had to be separated after arguing in the dugout.
Well, if I had anything to say about it, it looked like it was more Navarro than it was Garza. But, John, I would rather have a fiery guy like Garza on my team as a pitcher than to have someone who looks lackadaisical, or you have to prop him up all the time and keep patting him on the back. This guy is a horse. I mean, he's fiery, yeah, but guess what? The other team knows that as well. You carry yourself on the mound with toughness. The other team realizes that.
Dustin Pedroia hitting .325. And that is just off the outside. 1 ball, 1 strike. Well, I think they like the fact that he's got so much fire to go with so much talent. But the problem is that sometimes things would go poorly on the mound. He'd get very angry out there and he'd lose his focus, and the game itself would get away from him. And I feel that has what has changed. Right to the shortstop and caught by Bartlett.
I'll take that guy who's fiery, because you can rein those guys in a little bit. There's Garza before the game doing a little mental preparation. Not really the same preparation we do up here in the booth, Joe, but getting himself ready. And you know, Josh Beckett and Matt Garza aren't much different. They both have great stuff, and they both have some emotion to their game. That emotion can sometimes get you in trouble. That's why every once in a while you'll see Beckett walk around the mound and kind of talk to himself, take a deep breath, and try to calm down. And the same thing for Garza. He's learned that when he does get emotional, he needs to take a little bit of time and corral those emotions.
2 down, nobody on, and here is David Ortiz. Fastball to strike. And Joe, you and David were having some rather long discussions during batting practice.
Well, I've always liked David, and we were just talking, trying to talk through a few things, and he's, like I said, I've always liked him, so we were just having a discussion about the game. I expect him to have a pretty good game tonight. I watched him in batting practice, and his last couple of rounds he was hitting the ball real hard to right field, and he was having trouble pulling the ball in the early rounds of batting practice, and he seemed to get it together toward the end.
He got the big shift out for him. 3 infielders to the right of second. The third baseman is over at shortstop. Nobody's at third base.
Well, Joe was working with a swing. I said, use a pink bat and hit it to where the wind's blowing tonight. Wind blowing steep out to right field there. It's been a real breezy day here in Boston today. Hopefully he listens to both of us, Joe.
Ball and a strike to count. 2 down and nobody out. And back onto the rooftop. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
Well, Garza has a good fastball, and he got that one in tight, which is the way they try to pitch Big Papi most of the time. Let's see what he does with his hands. Almost. He was just a little. That was a pretty good swing. That ball there could drive the ball if he would have made solid contact underneath it just a little bit.
The only 2 hits he's ever had against Garza, both home runs. 2 down, nobody out. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Jason Bay on deck would be next. Off the outside. 2-2.
That's a good pitch, though. You know, last week we did a game on Monday with the Yankees and the Red Sox, and the Yankees just kept pounding David Ortiz inside, inside, inside. But at some point, a good hitter will cheat and catch up to that pitch. What you see the Rays doing is they'll come in, but they're going to go away to try to keep them honest to see if they come back inside right here.
Oh, man. The slider.
Beautiful pitch.
Put him away. Matt Garza has great stuff. 3 up and 3 down. Josh Beckett back to the hill. 1-0 Tampa Bay. Mother's Day 2009. Sunday Night Baseball from Fenway. I'm John Miller with Joe Morgan and Steve Phillips. Happy to have you with us. The Red Sox and the Rays. Yankees won their ball game coming from behind in Baltimore earlier today. Iwamura, second baseman, takes a called strike from Josh Beckett. 1 ball and 1 strike. Iwamura hitting 7th in the order. 282 average for the year. Then Bartlett and Navarro. And in this Rays ball club, we were talking about the base stealer Carl Crawford, 21 steal, but he's not the only guy who can steal one or looks to steal a base. Iwamura has stolen 6 times. The Rays as a team have stolen 50 bases in 32 games, and they've only been thrown out 6 times.
Well, the one thing I was impressed with the Rays last year was that they had speed. They had some defense. They haven't played as well defensively this year, but They had speed, they had defense, and they had some power, and they had pitching. That's an excellent ball club. And that's the reason they were able to win, the American League East and get to the World Series last year.
Two and one the count to Iwamura. And the big curveball drops in the dirt on the inside. Full count.
They've added to that power. They brought in Pat Burrell in the offseason for his power, but also for his ability maybe to help them against left-handed pitching, where last year I think they were a little bit vulnerable to that. They were a little vulnerable at the start of this season, but starting to turn that around. But Joe Madden wants to be able to score runs with power and with speed so they can win every kind of game.
3-2 to Iwamura. There is Bay, number one.
Let's go back and take a look at Matt Garza pitching to Big Papi. And a fastball for a strike, fastball away, and then he comes back inside with a fastball. Papi just misses, away with another one. And I tell you what, Steve thought he was going to come inside. That pitch there, he can throw it anywhere he wants. You're not going to hit it. That was a great breaking ball. It doesn't matter if you're in a slump or not. That will put you in a slump. That was a great breaking ball from Garza.
Jason Bartlett fouling one back to the screen. Bartlett, former Minnesota Twin, acquired before last year in a trade that really helped solidify the Rays' defense. He added the element of speed. He has 6 steals this year. Plus, it doesn't hurt. He's hitting .351 and has 4 home runs already. So they must have something, Joe. And Steve, a guy like this with those kind of numbers, he's hitting 8.
That's some depth to the lineup, and it really allows you to score in every inning. He really has been a guy that's turned around his offense this year, going more up the middle. Joe Madden talked about trying to keep the ball out of the air. He has just enough power to get himself in trouble. Base hits right back up the middle is what they're looking for.
That's right up the middle.
Yeah, I think they want it a little bit further. The ball's not carrying to center field, I guess, right?
Well, he wasn't one of their big stars last year, but I remember in the ALCS and also during the way, he seemed to do a lot of little things to help you win. I mean, he would put the ball in play when he needed to. I mean, he would bunt. I mean, he's a good player. And right now he's playing great because he's hitting well. And when you're hitting well, your whole game picks up.
He changed them defensively, too. I mean, he really was a big part of that. They were strong up the middle with Iwamura moving to second base and Upton in center field.
1-2 the count. And a sharp breaking ball down and away. Bartlett had only 1 home run for the entire season a year ago. But he did hit .286, stole 20 bases, and played a stellar shortstop. And in that same trade with the Twins, the other guy they got, Matt Garza. Delman Young went to the Twins. 3-2.
That was a good take there because that was kind of a rolling breaking ball, and you never know if it's going to come down quick enough.
3-2 now to Bartlett. Dioner Navarro, the catcher, on deck. 1 out, nobody on. 1-0. Tampa Bay leading. On the right field line. And J.D. Drew goes into a slide so that he doesn't become a permanent part of the sidewall there at Fenway Park, which gets right out almost onto the field there very quickly. Still 3-2.
You have to watch J.D. Drew when he goes running to the wall or running the bases. He ends up with a lot of leg issues and injuries. See the way the wall jets out there, and the way to not hurt yourself going into the wall is to slide like J.D. Drew did on that one.
He's been nursing a tight quad muscle on the left side. He did not play yesterday. 3-2 the count. Outfield bunched up towards center. Now Bartlett backs away. Still 3 balls and 2 strikes. That foul pole you saw down the right field line, only 302 feet from home plate. Although if you don't hit it right on the line, then you have to hit it about 370 feet. That is strike 3 call.
That pitch was as good as the pitch Garza threw to Big Papi, only this is a fastball, but it's right on the outside edge. Now let's take a look. Right out there on the edge. You can see Jason Varitek pulling in, but look how close that is. That's acceptable, right, John?
If it's within 2 inches, that is considered acceptable. When the umpires look at their scoring on how they did calling a game with the system that is used by Major League Baseball, that I guess has some similarities to K-zone. It's either in the strike zone, or if it's within 2 inches, that's considered acceptable. Broken bat. Navarro broke one of those pink bats, and he is retired. 3 up and 3 down. Jason Bay, then Mike Lowell coming up for Boston. 1-0 Tampa Bay. Presented by Taco Bell. I'm John Miller with Joe Morgan and Steve Phillips, and here you'll find us every Sunday, 8 Eastern Time, 5 Pacific. We'll always have a ball game. Next week, in fact, we'll be in the city by the bay, right on the shores of San Francisco Bay, or as they call it out there, McCovey Cove, as the Giants host the New York Mets. Blasted by Bay, deep left center, off the wall. Upton into second. It's a double for Bay.
And Jason Bay just continues to swing the bat well. I mean, he is just as hot as you can be, and especially in late inning situation. Well, this looked like it was a high fastball. He did not get it down. It was out over the plate. And Jason Bay puts the pink stamp on it and rips it off the wall in left center field.
Well, that's an easy double in any other ballpark. At least a double. And here, Upton played the Karen very smoothly with a bare hand grab and actually made a play on it. Second. Here is Mike Lowell. 28 runs batted in for Lowell. Hitting .314, 6 homers, 28 RBIs. Got the 916 OPS. Anything over 900 makes the guy all-star caliber. Trying to knock in Jason Bay to tie this game. Oh, there's that two-seamer and almost got him.
Me. Almost got me.
You okay, Joe?
Yeah, almost got me.
Joe pulled a hamstring up here, I think.
Yeah.
So there's no flinching policy.
I have to tell you, I didn't see any way he could get out of the way of that one. Good job, Mike Lowell.
You all right?
Yeah, I was looking right down on it. I didn't see any way he could get out of it. Harm's way there.
Malone had that offseason hip surgery.
Right. That was the other reason.
Similar to A-Rod. Toward the Johnny Pesky foul pole and caught by Zobrist. Here comes Bay. And he'll make it easily into third.
See Jason Bay getting over to third base there, but sometimes playing the outfield at Fenway with the Green Monster teaches you how to defend, but it also teaches you what you need to do on the bases. Jason Bay out of the box knew, I've got to hustle right now to get to second base because of the ricochet and the fact that B.J. Upton has an outstanding arm. He's on second because he thought double all the way, knowing he didn't coast in there that B.J. Upton was going to have a play.
Bay hitting .385 the last 7 games with 13 RBIs, 4 home runs. And usually, and you touched on it, Joe, when he hits a home run, it's late in the game when it really counts, including here on Friday. They got 3 infielders to the right of second for J.D. Drew. There's nobody at shortstop. The third baseman is right near the bag with Jason Bay. You see how they're playing it for J.D. Drew. Shortstop Bartlett is basically the second baseman, and Iwamura is an extra guy over there between the first and second baseman. Drew hitting .250 so far this year. 1 ball, 1 strike to count.
Now, Jason Bay doesn't have the speed of Jacoby Ellsbury. When you think back when Ellsbury stole home against the Yankees, Angel Baroa, the third baseman, was playing over where the shortstop plays. The Rays are keeping Longoria close to third base. This is where Baroa was playing when Ellsbury ended up stealing home. Garza out of the stretch, really a non-issue though.
And called a strike. 1-2. Well, that was the talk of baseball when Jacoby Ellsbury stole home against the Yankees right here on Sunday Night Baseball 2 weeks ago. Something that Carl Crawford has done, not this year, but in the past. Straight steal at home. 1-2 the count. Here's that hard slider going inside. 2-2. Andy Pettit was on the hill, and look at that. All of a sudden heading home and making it Jacoby Ellsbury.
J.D. Drew backing out, saying, let me just watch this. And Ellsbury stumbles going in to score.
So it wasn't elegant, but it was effective. Man, that was a pitch.
I think J.D. Drew was backing out because he's saying, you don't trust me, right? You don't trust me to get a base hit to drive you in, so you're going to steal it. And that's a tough play to make with a left-handed hitter up there, as I said at the time, because all the catcher has to do is just jump out to the side. He can't jump forward because if the hitter swings, then it's interference. But all he has to do is jump to the side, take the ball and tag the guy out. And what happens is when a guy steals home, everybody around the legs become alerted, because to steal home, there has to be a breakdown in the defensive assignments in order to steal home. Because if they watch you, you can't steal home, because they just hold your third, stop you, pitch out, and they got you. But that's why it's so much harder to steal home than, say, second base, because it's a long throw.
Breaking for the plate is Bay. Here's the throw by Ibar, way offline, and I don't think he had a chance to get him anyway.
Well, he didn't after he fumbled it. He had a chance when it was first hit, but he couldn't get it out of his glove, and then he still decided to come to the plate. Someone should have been yelling at him, taking it first after that, because he could not get it out of his glove, and that allowed Bay to score. And watch, he has a shot right here. He's got him right there, but see, he can't get it out of his glove. It rolls up his glove, throws his timing off, and also throws his accuracy off. See right there, he's got him if he makes a good throw, but he could not get it out of his glove.
And that is sometimes you try to do too much.
Right.
Carlos Pena is one of the outstanding defensive first basemen. Yeah, he is the regular first baseman as Bailey pops one into shallow right, a long run for Zobrist, and he gets there. Drew will go back to first.
Well, that's the risk you run. I mean, Joe Madden wanted to give Carlos Pena a day off just to give him a chance to get a break. I figured this was the day to do it. Josh Beckett with that breaking ball that he buries into the back foot and give Ibar some at bats. But Baseball has a funny way. You can't seem to hide a player on the field. And Carlos Pena, in my mind, should be a guy who can play 162 games anyways.
At first base, what do? You just catch the ball.
Yeah.
But not only that, I mean, I think that anytime you have a guy like Longoria who's hot, you want protection for him. And, of course, Pena offers that protection. He's leading the league in home runs.
Almost sounds like The Sopranos. I'm Carlos Pena. I'm here to protect you. I'm going to offer you some protection. Here's a called strike into Jason Varitek. Well, he's pretty good at it. He's driven in 32 runs. He got 13 home runs. We're talking about Pena. And that is more home runs than anybody in either league. However, giving him the day off. They have a day off in the schedule tomorrow as they go to Baltimore. They don't play again until Tuesday. And Pena has struck out nearly half of his at-bats against Beckett in the past.
But see, when you're a slugger, John, it only takes one mistake. And that's what happens. We're talking about base stealers and what they do, to change the game. A slugger does the same thing. He changes the game because if you make good pitches, you can strike him out. But if you make any mistakes, he's going to punish you. So it's a similar situation as a base stealer.
The ball and a strike to Jason Varitek, and the big curveball drops in there. Strike two.
I think the point, I agree with you, Joe, because, Pena doesn't have great numbers against Josh Beckett. But this isn't the same Josh Beckett right now. This is the Josh Beckett who can't command his fastball and who the league is hitting 362 against the fastball. To me, that's when you want your power bat in the lineup to be able to try to hit it out of the ballpark.
I bet Matt Garza would like for him to be out there.
He might not have a run up on the board against Garza if Pena had been at first base on that play. 2-2 the count. Plus, I have a different take on it. You guys are unhappy because you think he should be in there. He's better defensively. He's a slugger. It's Sunday Night Baseball. I expected to see him. He's leading the majors in home runs. I'm taking it personally.
Went to Northeastern University here in Boston.
Local guy. And too long. So it's 3-2 now to Varitek.
So Navarro coming out in front of the plate to remind everybody that the runner at first will be moving. Go to first if it's a ground ball.
A ball and a strike. 2 weeks ago when we were here with the Yankees in town, we saw Ellsbury steal home, and Ellsbury kind of took over that game. That was just one of the things he did in the bases in that game. There goes the runner from first, and a foul off the left field side. Back out of play. It wasn't like they were crushing the ball over the wall and doing lots of damage against Andy Pettitte that night against the Yankees. And in a way, Jason Bay, now he's not the same kind of base runner as Ellsbury or Carl Crawford, but as we saw, he hustled that ball into a double to start the inning, and then he hustled home on that ground ball to first.
If teams just wait for the 3-run homer, they're not going to win a championship this year. You're going to have to do a lot of little things to give yourself a chance.
Drew runs, and he swings at that high fastball and fouls it back.
There'll be games where you'll score a lot of runs and win easily. But in those close ball games where you're not going to hit the ball out of the ballpark, you have to have other ways of manufacturing runs. Whether it's the hit and run, whether it's the stolen base, whether it's the sacrifice. You're going to have to do those things. And Boston definitely doesn't want to sacrifice. So they're going to have to hit and run and force things to happen on the bases.
Literally, they don't sacrifice.
They do not sacrifice.
They have not had a sacrifice by
the entire year.
That is part of the so-called Moneyball philosophy of not giving up outs. Why give somebody an out?
But I don't
give someone up.
I don't think they adhere to it strictly because, remember, one of the biggest plays in Red Sox history is the stolen base by Dave Roberts.
Drew takes off from first. And the curveball, strike three call. And Varitek knew it. Tied up at 1-1. Here comes Carl Crawford. He'll be up second. Longoria follows him when we come back.
Presented by Taco Bell. Brought to you by Chevy and Staples. That was easy.
Red Sox and Rays from Fenway Park on Mother's Day 2009. Sunday night baseball here at Fenway. And a lot of families are here together. Some are not with their mom, but thinking of mom. And here is leadoff man B.J. Upton against Josh Beckett. Third inning, 1-1 the score. And that is only the second time that Beckett has not thrown a first pitch strike to a Rays hitter. B.J. Upton, who underwent successful surgery to repair the labrum in his left shoulder back in November. Surgery performed in Birmingham, Alabama by Dr. James Andrews. And that was that bad shoulder was cutting down his power last year. He had 24 home runs the year before last. Tough hop on Lowell and into left field. So Upton is aboard, and now Crawford is coming up. A lot of big time sports activity in Boston. All tonight, the Boston Bruins of the National Hockey League playing a Stanley Cup playoff game right here in town. And that's been posted on the hand-operated scoreboard. The Bruins, who need a win or they'll be eliminated against Carolina. And they have a 3-0 lead in the second period. And some of the folks are keeping track of both games. There's a guy who's got the Celtics jersey and his Bruins jersey all going at the same time as he attends the Red Sox game with his Red Sox World Champions hat. I didn't see any New England Patriots paraphernalia down there.
If they were playing tonight, he'd have found somewhere to have it on there.
If they were playing.
Now the Celtics are down 2-1. They're playing in Orlando in the NBA playoffs. And the Magic are out in front. And they're, I see. So he's got the Patriots thing covered. I have to apologize to him. There goes Upton. And he is out.
You know, his slide, if he was out, it was because of the slide, because he should have had that beat. He had a good jump. The throw was high. Let's take a look. It appeared that he got his foot in there, from my perspective. Very close.
The tag was a little bit high.
Right, exactly.
Beckett. And he keeps Crawford off the base paths. 2 down. Crawford singled and scored a run his first time.
Well, he doesn't get a great jump there. He doesn't use the crossover step. He kind of stays in place. I think he was out. Good job there by the umpires.
Bill Welke made the call.
Yeah, my eyes were deceiving me.
Well, he got him a little high up on the knee, but the foot did get into the base. So Bill Welke on the call.
I think we have on this Mother's Day the Mrs. Welke's kids out there umpiring 2 of the bases. Bill is at second base, and his older brother Tim is at third base, the crew chief for this particular crew. Evan Longoria with nobody on, 2 down. Longoria popped up to the shortstop his first time. 1-1 the score. Strike on the outside. Longoria, 44 runs batted in, the most RBIs for a player in his team's first 32 games of a season in 56 years. The last time somebody had this many or more, his name was Roy Campanella, the great catcher of the Dodgers. And they were the Brooklyn Dodgers. And that curve is off the outside. 2-1 the count. He had 45 batted in 32 games and finished that year with 142 batted in. So Longoria, who's only 23 years old, got 44 RBIs already. You see the short list of great players who've had this many or more after this number of games in the history of baseball.
21 of those 44 have been against the Boston Red Sox in the 9 games that they've played, full games they've played. He has been a Red Sox killer so far this year.
2-2 the count. Full count now, 3-2.
Well, you can almost see that Josh Beckett is pitching very tough to Longoria, because I don't think he's afraid of Ibar behind him instead of Pena. And if he throws him a 3-2 breaking ball, then I'll know that. Burrow behind him instead of Pena. Well, he went with the fastball.
I'm with you. I would have gone with a curveball.
Yeah,
though.
I just thought he would the way he pitched him. He threw him a 2-1 breaking ball. He threw him a 1-1 breaking ball.
So the walk to Longoria. Manager Terry Francona looks on. Francona just back in town. Since yesterday's game, he went down to Chapel Hill, North Carolina, to attend his daughter's college graduation. He was back in time for batting practice here tonight. Congratulations to the Francona family.
I bet he didn't have to go through the airport and go through security, get his bags checked, etc., in order to get back in time.
You sound a little bitter about that.
No, I think it's great. Wish I could avoid it at times. And at times I do, but not very often.
And that's a called strike to Pat Burrell, who singled home a run his first time, hitting one off the wall in left field. Crawford scored from first.
And John, as we've talked many times about Francona, he does not get the credit that he deserves for being, one of the great managers in the game. He's done a fabulous job with all the distractions, everything else that goes on here in Boston. He's done a fabulous job.
The Red Sox have won 2 World Series in the last, 91 years.
And how many did they win before that?
Well, they won a lot before 91 years ago.
Yeah,
they won them regularly, but since 1918, they hadn't won any until Terry Francona became the manager. And the curveball is up and in for a ball. So.
He really is a guy that handles the media very well. He minimizes any problem that's out there. He lifts his players up. He never lays them out in the paper with any sort of criticism. His preference is always to address problems behind the closed doors at the clubhouse, and he feels like if something gets out, if there's a problem that gets out, he's failed in his job managing the team. And I tell you what, he is a general manager dream come true the way he handles the team.
There is Pedroia, and Nick Green gets the put out on Longoria. 1-1 the score. Green is coming up, then the top of the order, Ellsbury and Pedroia. Often used by athletes and bodybuilders to restart natural testosterone production after a steroid cycle. Manny waived his right to challenge the suspension and said in the form of a statement that the medication he was using was for personal health reasons. And there's been a lot of talk, especially around Dodger Stadium this weekend. I was there on Friday, about the fact that Manny has still never spoken to his own teammates about this yet. And Joe, you had a lot of years in major league clubhouses. If you had something where you'd let your team down, would it be incumbent upon you to go talk to your team about it?
I tell you what, John, that's a very difficult thing to do, especially when you've been embarrassed your team and your fans like Manny has done. Look, I've had to stand up and apologize to my teammates. I did something here in Boston actually years ago before the World Series, and I had to stand up and apologize. It was one of the most difficult things I ever had to do. You know, I've apologized to you, I apologize to other people, but it was difficult to apologize to your team. Now, that said, I do believe personally that he should have reached out to some of these young players that he has taken under his wing and said, hey, guys, I'm still going to be there for you. I'm not going to be in the trenches with you, but I'm still pulling for you, and just hold the ship till I get back and just see what the reaction would have been. So I do believe that he should have gone in, you know, and talked to the young players, because those young guys idolized Manny. Remember, think about it when he went there last year, how they looked up to him, followed him around, followed him in batting practice. So I think you owe those young players and the team, you know, an explanation.
The Dodgers have some great young talent as Green belts one toward the wall, just above the out-of-town scoreboard. Crawford into second. The tag, out! The tag applied by Iwamura.
And we talked about the hustle of Jason Bay. Green was hustling, but an excellent play by Crawford and an excellent throw. Remember, when we see a play like this made, the throw has to be right on the bag. And we see Green coming out of there. He knows that he has to hustle to get a double. But watch where the throw is. Watch the throw right there on the bag. If the throw is left or right, he's going to be safe. But if the throw is right on the bag, he's got the ball waiting for him, and he tags him out. Steve, you had something to say about Manny, I believe.
The one out here is Ellsbury, showing bunt, taking ball one.
Yeah, what we're hearing now is that Manny likely will address his club when they head to South Florida to take on the Marlins on the road trip. But this is devastating for the Dodgers organization. I mean, they've built their marketing plan around Manny Ramirez. They're paying him $20+ million to play there in a year and a player option deal. And you're right, he was a major part of the development of the relationship with those young players. They really idolize him, so it's a major issue. On the other side of it, they're likely still in that division to be in first place when he comes back on July 3rd. His being suspended, it's without pay, so they're going to save money, which might ultimately give them money, make money available to add the pitcher they need down the stretch. He's going to come back motivated. He's going to come back fresh and rested to where he won't come up with that surprising hamstring or quad injury. So where it feels bad and it feels dire in Los Angeles, they're going to come out of it, in my mind, okay, and it might ultimately free up the money to let them get that pitcher they need to be a good team down the stretch.
So you're looking at a silver lining.
Yeah, I'm not looking.
No, you have to fight
I have to say, I'm not looking at a silver lining, John, myself either.
That's a base hit for Jacoby Ellsbury. The Red Sox base stealer is on base with one out.
Well, first of all, I want to say, and it's not just Manny, but I have a problem. I'm very, very disappointed in a lot of the players who have been caught using steroids, etc., because it seems that they have a right to do this. They feel like they have a right to do this. And I don't think you have a right to tarnish the records of this game, this great game that we all love. And not only that, you're tarnishing the reputations of your peers, the guys who are playing right now. Everybody's under suspicion now. There are 103 names out there that we all want to know who they are. So everyone's still under suspicion. So every time something like this happens, those names are thrown back to the forefront. Every time this happens, somebody else's name comes up. And that's what bothers me. It seems like they feel like because everyone else was doing it, you have the right to do it. And that's what bothers me the most, because the players who are playing today, who did not do steroids, whatever, they're tainted, just like the rest of the thing. And I think the players who do not cheat, they get hit with a double barrel whammy here. First of all, they do not have the statistics, so they don't make as much money. Then when it comes to the Hall of Fame, they don't have the statistics, so they're not going to get in. So I think that they're getting hurt the most. The players who have done this the right way, played the game the way they're supposed to play it, those are the ones I feel badly for. And I mean that, because there are so many guys. There are far more guys innocent than guilty. But I don't think that we look at it that way.
See, the problem I have over time is those guys, that silent, what must be a minority instead of majority, where were they? Why weren't they screaming and yelling, trying to get the game cleaned up? Because people were taking money out of their pocket.
I think that's an excellent point, too, because everybody is under suspicion. And that's the complaint that's been voiced many times by Roy Oswalt, the outstanding right-hander for the Astros, and Lance Berkman, saying that, hey, those 103 names, A-Rod's name was leaked out there and put out in the public. And A-Rod since has admitted wrongdoing. But what about those other 103?
Right.
Because he says, I'd like to put out there that I'm not one of those guys.
But a lot of guys are saying that.
So there's 103 guys maybe don't want those names put out there.
Right, exactly. Here's the problem. The other problem I have, John. They picked A-Rod's name. Whoever saw that list had to see more than A-Rod's name. So where's the journalistic responsibility here to cover the story? As we always say, you're supposed to cover the story. You saw the other names. Why is his the only one out there? That's not ethical to me. You know, that's why in the past I've argued with him. I'm not a journalist because I don't believe that's right, what happened to A-Rod. I'm not, as I've said 100 times, get them all. And I mean that. You know, get them all. But you can't just pick and choose who are you going to incriminate or punish. And I don't like that.
Well, there are a lot of journalists out there who would love to be the one to break the rest of the list. I mean, I think that's not the issue. I think that there are a lot of journalists that would love to have the scoop to get the rest of the guys. I think the issue is that whoever did leak that out thought they would have an impact on the game that it did, and whether it was an attack on Alex or an attack on the game. I get asked a lot of times when we talk about this issue, how does this impact the credibility of Major League Baseball? Now, it does certainly taint an era of the game, but I think that I think you have to look at baseball right now in a better light, that they are trying to clean their game up. And it doesn't matter how big a name you are right now, they're going to investigate you or they're going to expose you or suspend you if you are cheating.
But I still think, Steve, it puts baseball in a bad light. I mean that because, you know, I was just talking to John about this. Jerry Mayfield got suspended from NASCAR, right? He's a 5-time champion. No one talks about it, right? But baseball is a big deal. And that's why I say I think it does.
There goes Ellsbury, and the ball fouled back by Pedroia.
Your point is well taken in that they are trying to clean up the game, but every shot we take hurts the game. I mean, there are some fans out there. Most of the fans come back, go to the game. But there are some fans out there who are saying, I'm not going to the game again until they get it cleaned up completely, and they're not sure it is. So it's just very disappointing to me that it continues to happen when I thought we're about to move on.
3-2 the count. Ellsbury running. This is going to be a tough play, and it is handled nicely by Longoria. Over to second, Ellsbury. Pedroia retired.
Well, Joe, you're right. I think the question is, what do fans think about it? Because they're really the owners of the game. They're the ones paying the salaries for the players. ESPN.com does a lot of polls to be able to check on that. And steroid use from players made you less likely to attend a Major League Baseball game this year. 29% say yes, but 71% say no. So a vast majority are still willing to buy tickets and come to the game.
Yeah, but there's still 29%. I mean, that's a lot of people. And this is only 252,000 votes. There are a lot of baseball fans, millions of baseball fans everywhere. And if that's 30% holds up, that's a lot of fans that are disenchanted with the game.
David Ortiz, the hitter. Runner at second, 2 down. 1-1 the score. Matt Garza curves him for ball 1. Ortiz struck out on really what was an unhittable pitch his first time. Still looking for his first home run of the year. Manny Ramirez, by the way, his Dodgers have lost 3 out of the 4 games they have played since the suspension began on Thursday, including 2 out of 3 to the second-place Giants this weekend at Dodger Stadium, as Ortiz could not catch up to that high, hard fastball.
That was a good fastball with movement.
And it's that one up and into Ortiz where he has difficulty catching up. That ball down to the zone, a little lower, he does catch up to that, but that ball up and in, just above the hands, is where he has difficulty getting the bat to the ball.
A ball and a strike facing Garza. Base hit could knock in Ellsbury to put them ahead. Ooh, pretty good rip on that one, but fouled straight back. 1-2.
You know, the one thing that I've always wondered about, everyone seems to say go the other way, and they use that as a cure-all. When a guy's in the slump, John, they say go the other way, you know, and get yourself out of the slump. That's not exactly the way you get out of a slump if you're a David Ortiz or one of the big guys. I mean, you have to concentrate and focus on making good contact, but going the other way slows your bat down, and it makes you push the ball instead of attacking it. And I've been honest with you, I like that last swing.
A ball and 2 strikes. Off the outside. 2-2. That's a couple of swings of his tonight.
Right.
Like.
Much better than what I saw. You know, I've watched a few games on TV the last few days. And those swings were much better than what I saw before.
Especially on the fastball. But last time 2-2, he got the yacker.
And if he gets that yacker again.
It's that one that nobody can hit.
Yeah.
Ellsbury off second. There it is. But this one he took, the big curveball.
That one wasn't a strike. The other one was right at the bottom of the strike zone. Just a magnificent pitch from Garza.
Now, it'll be interesting to see right here. You do have first base open, but Jason Bay on deck. Do you go back to the curveball again on Ortiz? Because you did strike him out the first time, and you could go back to back. If you put him on, though, you've got Jason Bay coming up, who's been absolutely crushing with runners on base.
Well, he hasn't proven to him that he can handle his fastball yet either. So you got 2 ways to go. I mean, he's got a great curve, but he hasn't proven to him that he can hit it. Big run fastball. Yeah, you can tell he's set up inside. He didn't get it inside.
Tell you what, you keep throwing David Ortiz fastballs, and I know he's been struggling. But I agree, his swing, he's getting closer on that fastball, and sooner or later he's going to get there.
You see, even in the midst of the struggling, he's hitting .320 with runners in scoring position. He's got one out there right now, Jacoby Ellsbury. He walked it. So Bay will come up with 2 down and 2 men on. And we're going to go to Steve Berthiaume with this update.
Left fielder, number 44.
So the Dodgers 22-11, but 1-3 since Manny's suspension. Remember, they had not even lost a home game. And then Manny was suspended, and they blew a big lead against Washington that night, which the pitching staff blew that game. They scored 9 runs in that loss, but then the Giants came in, their arch rivals, and took 2 out of 3 from them at Dodger Stadium. Here's Jason Bay, 2 men on, 2 men out, strike 1. Garza in a jam here, and he's only retired 1 hitter in this inning. Green hit one off the wall and left, tried to stretch it into a double. Crawford threw him out. Ellsbury hit a single to left. Pedroia grounded out with Ellsbury going to second. Now Ortiz has walked. 1 strike to Bay. 33 batted in for the year in the dirt, and Ellsbury thought about it, then thought better of it.
Well, I've always said, John, you don't have to be fast to be a good base runner. You just have to understand the philosophy of base running. Right there, I think he should have made it. Anytime a ball is going toward the dirt, you kind of move off even more, because if it bounces away like that, you have a chance to go to third base. I thought he should have been able to go there. You just move off when the ball's low like that, and then you have a chance of the ball hitting in the dirt. You're always ready to go.
So he's still at second. Ortiz still at first, and that is on the inside. Strike 2 call.
See, the other thing that if Ellsbury did advance, that it might take away that breaking ball in the dirt that he might want to throw for Jason Bay to strike him out, because then you avoid the wild pitch. Now he can bounce one in the dirt, and he has that margin for error because he's still on second.
And remember, I've said this 100 times to John. He's probably forgotten them all, but there are 9 different ways that you can score from third base with 2 outs that you can't score from first.
I don't remember that.
I see him quiz. I see John over here, and all these years we've worked together, and I've told you 100 times, and you're having trouble remembering them.
So we have to keep telling them things.
Yeah, I have to keep. Yeah,
pass ball.
Yeah,
wild pitch.
Right. Well, Steve gave
That's
you 2
2.
of them.
That's 2.
Error.
3.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah.
And a bunch of others. I don't really have time right now.
9 ways, John.
2-2 the count to Jason Bay. There's that great hard breaking ball, and Bay, not this time. 3 strikeouts for Garza. On to the 4th inning. Beckett back to the hill. It's 1-1. Taco Bell. We're at Fenway Park. That looks pretty good out there to me.
You know, there's something about every time I come to Boston. I have lunch at noon, and I have nothing until later. I don't understand it.
Let's
change. I got to change.
Food.
Yeah.
New shortstop Julio Lugo is in at short now. Nick Green has moved from short over to second base. Dustin Pedroia is out of the game. Pedroia, as you see Green moving over to second base now. Willie Ibar, the hitter against Beckett. Pedroia, when he was up there in the third inning, not on the pitch in which he grounded out to third, but just before that, when we were having a deep discussion about big issues.
Well,
Johnny's foul ball. Look at that.
He swings so hard all the time. I'm not surprised if he doesn't hurt himself. But see, he runs well. He's running. He hustles down the line on the play. So I don't know exactly what it could have been. But he does swing hard. It looked like it was an issue with his right leg.
We'll try and get a report from the Red Sox trainer's room.
They do not need another injury, especially with Kevin Youkilis out.
We're going with a short bench as it is, yeah. And Ibar just got a piece of that breaking ball to stay alive.
And it's been a real test for the Boston Red Sox and the depth of their organization. And, Jed Lowry out with the surgery to his wrist, and Lugo was already out. Nick Green was third on the depth chart at shortstop, and you could make an argument that he's been as valuable as anybody to their early season success, filling in there and now having to shift over to play second base.
1-2 the count. And Ibar fouls that one. Still 1 ball and 2 strikes. Yeah, Youkilis won't be able to play probably until Tuesday at the earliest. Ellsbury's had a hamstring problem that slowed him down a little bit earlier this week. And Pedroia out of this game now. Nick Green, though, you're right. They are 16-4 when he has started at shortstop. And as you say, he was third on the list, but they've had a lot of success with him. And the fans, since Lugo's been back from an injury, they've only gone 1-5 when he's been the starting shortstop. And the fans here at Fenway have been booing Lugo.
Green's made some errors, but just they haven't been costly, but he has swung the bat well.
Curveball too low. 3-2 to Ibar, having quite a battle here with Josh Beckett. Zobrist, powerful switch hitter on deck, and then Iwamura due up third. 1-1 the score in the 4th inning. And that's a foul. Still 3 balls and 2 strikes.
Julio Lugo had surgery on his knees and really came back sooner than I think they anticipated, but they got caught in a jam with their roster. They needed another infielder, so they brought him back, and he has had some difficulty. Terry Francona said just doesn't have the athleticism back in his legs yet to make some of the plays.
Check swing. Lowell. 1 away. Now let's go to the studio. Steve Berthiaume with the Sports Center right now. Yankees, as Zobrist taps one slowly. Here's the hurried throw in the dirt. Got him! Scooped out by Bailey. And Zobrist didn't think so.
Nice play by Mike Lowell and Bailey. This is the toughest play when it's right down the line, and he's actually going to end up running into foul territory. See the angle he's coming at. He rounds himself so he can throw to first base. He doesn't come straight in and then have to turn. He was getting his body in position to throw. Nice play.
Did he really get him?
That's irrelevant.
Angel Hernandez said he got him.
It was a nice play.
Here is Iwamura. And off the outside for ball 1. We saw Iwamura during the spring playing for Team Japan in the World Baseball Classic. Although it didn't seem like we saw him right at the very end. He did not I don't remember him being in that starting lineup at the very end, as they won the World Baseball Classic again. Shallow left. Here is Bay. 3 up and 3 down. Stay tuned now, because Joe Madden, the Tampa Bay manager, is going to visit with us from the dugout in 60 seconds from Fenway. Back with Joe Madden in a minute. For the fourth, and we are pleased to be joined by the American League Manager of the Year from 2008, Joe Madden, in the Tampa Bay dugout. Joe, many thanks.
Thank you.
Hey, Joe, last time Garza pitched such a great game against the Red Sox, how does he look to you tonight compared to that game?
It's very similar, particularly that last at-bat against Bay. That fastball kind of in, it looked like, from over here, down at the knees, and then able to finish off with the slider away. Stuff-wise, velocity is really good. The breaking ball, the curveball he struck out Varitek with, very reminiscent of his last performance.
You know, Joe, we're talking a lot about stolen bases tonight. How important is that factor in your guys' offense?
It's a big component of our offense, not only just the fact that we steal bases, but how the pitchers react. You saw the throwovers tonight already by Beckett, and last night with Lester it helped us out, I think, a bit too. BJ just kind of stood up in his first move on that steal. We talked to him about it. It looked like the turf was a little bit loose over there also, so we'll have to check that out.
Hey, 58 pitches already for Garza after 3 innings. How long can he stay in this game?
Well, he's a guy that I normally go a little bit deeper with. A lot of times I'll go 110 or sometimes even more than that with him. Just depends on how hard he has to work to get to that particular juncture.
Joe, many thanks. We'll let you go back to work.
All right, guys. Have a good time.
Joe Madden, the manager of Matt Garza and the Tampa Bay Rays. And there's the big curveball in for a strike to Mike Lowell.
Well, he had a little smile on his face when he was talking about the turf over at first base. Do you think he's talking about a little home field advantage where they loosened up the turf for the base stealers over there? Conspiracy theory.
Well, why not?
Absolutely. Although, you know, Ellsbury needs to run as well for Boston. But
although you sound like somebody who speaks from prior knowledge of these kinds of things as the former general manager of the Mets.
You know,
I'm guessing maybe things like that sometimes went on at Shea.
Wasn't me. Bobby Valentine was my manager, so he's the one who liked to kind of wet the dirt in front of home plate sometimes and loosen it up at first.
The slider taken by Lowell, too low. 1 ball and 2 strikes.
When Upton got thrown out trying to steal, and Joe alluded to that, we were talking about the fact he didn't use a crossover. Watch this. He doesn't cross over. It's kind of running in place. He said he stood up, which is another term for running in place. He just stands up. You're not going forward towards, you're not going towards second base. Your first move is to just run in place. And that's why the crossover step helps propel you towards second base. If you just stand up, and as he calls it standing up, I call it running in place, because your first move is your foot stays in the same spot and you're not moving.
When you see a base stealer, you know, when you're trying to defend that, a lot of it has to do with the pitcher's release to the plate. You want to be 1.3 seconds or less, and then count on the catcher for the time he catches the ball and releases it to the glove at second, 2 seconds or less.
Strike 3 call. 1 down.
Take a look at what we're talking about here. Pitcher from the stretch with a runner on first. You want to get as short to the plate as you can. 1.3 seconds or less. There you see Brad Penning, 1.3 seconds. And then by the time it hits the glove for Jason Varitek, that transition is now the throw to second base for the catcher to release to the glove of the second baseman or shortstop. 2 seconds or less. 3.3 seconds. That can usually get most good base stealers at second base.
Didn't look like you got that one, though.
No, well, that's the speedy one. You know, it's interesting. I talked to Jason Varitek earlier this year about base stealers. They said, when you release the ball, do you have a pretty good sense whether you're going to get a runner or not? He said, with everybody except Carl Crawford, because he's the one whose second half of his break is faster than anybody else.
Well, the one thing you have to look at when you're talking about base stealers, there are two different types. One's quick, meaning they're up to full speed after about 3 steps, which was the Maury Wills type. The other is that they build speed as they go. That's kind of Lou Brock. He was getting faster, and as Upton, you're talking about Crawford, I'm sorry, would do the same thing. They're building speed. They're not as quick at the start as, say, a Maury Wills, but they're very, very fast once they get their momentum going.
Now, which guy were you?
I was quick. I wasn't nearly fast. I wasn't fast as most guys. But I'm going to show you something in a second here. But let's take a look at Maury Wills, and we'll give you a good idea.
2-1 the count to J.D. Drew. 1 out and nobody on. Garza. And the ball is fouled back out of play.
See, I wasn't quick. And remember, Willie Davis played with the Dodgers when Maury Wills was there. He was faster than Maury Wills, but he couldn't steal bases like that because he wasn't quick at the beginning. But once Willie Davis got started, going from first to third, you couldn't slow him. I mean, he was just a blur going around second base.
I don't know that there was anybody faster in the majors than Willie Davis at that time back in the 60s.
But either you're quick, after 3 steps, you're already up to full speed.
Strike 3 call.
And maybe Joe Madden was right. He is throwing as well as he was that day. Let's take a look at what we're talking about with Maury Wills. Yeah. Maybe see at 500. See, he was off, and you don't see him building speed. He's just there. He's up to full speed right away, and that's the way Maury Wills stole bases. You notice he always went feet first. And we'll show you later Lou Brock, who was a little different. Lou was also taller, so he couldn't get down in that crouch like Maury to get the sprinter start. And Lou was building speed as he went along.
Jeff Bailey, the hitter, flying to shallow right his first time. 2 down and nobody on. 1-1 the score. 4th inning. 2-0. Well, Maury Wills stole 104 bases in 1962, obliterating the all-time record for steals in a season. And I think he got something started that had been lost from the game for a long time. The game would become a power game in the 40s and 50s. Speaking of which, that ball is hammered deep to center. Off the wall. The barehanded play by Upton, but no chance to get Bailey at second. He's there with a double.
Well, that was a fastball was down a little bit. The fastball that's been up has been the one that's harder for the hitters to handle. But the target's down. You see this ball is down, and that's where you can handle the low fastball because it's not quite as fast. But he still almost got it out. That hit about 8 to 10 feet from the top.
The wall in left field is 37 feet 2 inches tall, and in center field 17 feet tall. It is about 390 to dead straightaway center field. You see 379 out there to deep left center. Here's Varitek right along the left field line. Base hit. Bailey will score the go-ahead run. Varitek easily into second as Crawford had to dig that one out of that doorway along the sidewall. 2-1 Red Sox.
Well, the Boston Red Sox have scored 45+% of their runs this year with 2 outs. So they can continue to put rallies together no matter what's happening in an inning. Bailey gets on second on a fastball down and away. Jason Varitek just stays on it, hits it off the end of the bat, but is able to keep it fair, flare it down the left field line, and trade places with Jeff Bailey at second base. See the ball flaring away from Carl Crawford. Speed can help you defensively, but nobody has speed to run that one down, and Varitek now in scoring position as well.
I actually thought that was just a bad choice of pitches. He could not handle his fastball inside earlier, and that pitch was away where he could slap at it.
Here's Nick Green, singled his first time off the left field wall and got thrown out trying to stretch it into a double by Carl Crawford. Nick Green hitting .284 for the Red Sox. He's driven in 11 runs. Dustin Pedroia had to be removed from the game to start the 4th inning. Green now at second base. Lugo in at short. And that breaking ball in there for a called strike. We got word from the Boston clubhouse that Dustin Pedroia was taken out of the game because of a strained right groin. And when you saw that big swing he had hitting a foul ball and the way he doubled up afterward, you wondered if maybe something along those lines had happened. And indeed it has. High pop fly. Iwamura going out. Still going out, and it drops to second base. Out, but the run scored. Varitek scores the run. The Rays gave that one away. It's a single for Green and a run batted in. But Zobrist stood and watched Iwamura keep going on that one, and Iwamura never got there. In 60 seconds, we'll visit with Terry Francona, manager of the Red Sox, from the dugout after this. Francona from the Boston dugout to Sunday Night Baseball. Tito, thanks for coming on.
Okay.
Hey, Terry, I mean, Beckett hasn't been the ace since opening day. Does he look any different to you tonight? He struggled before.
You know what? I think he is the ace. I think there's some numbers that aren't adding up yet that will. He's our guy, and along with Lester, and again, we'll get Dice K back. We believe in him. He's left some balls over the plate, and he's paid the price at times, but as you can see tonight, you know, he's got a lot of fight, and he'll keep fighting.
Terry, Dustin Pedroia leaves the game with what we've been told is a right groin strain. What can you tell us about his injury?
Yeah, it grabbed him a little bit going down the line. You can see when he skipped over the bag. He had felt it last week, and he thought he was getting better. And for him to say something, you know, it grabbed him a little bit.
What about Youkilis? What's his status?
Well, he's not. You know, he's got that oblique where he got hit twice, and then, you know, he's missed about a week, and he took some swings today. He's probably 2-3 days away still. So, you know, we're a little bit banged up, but we keep this 2-run lead, we'll feel a little better about ourselves.
Terry, many thanks.
Okay, guys.
Terry Francona, his daughter Alyssa, graduated from college today, and he was able to get down there for the graduation. So congratulations to Terry Francona and the Francona family. Jason Bartlett leads off against Beckett. Strike one the count. Bartlett, the 8th place hitter. A check swing on that sharp breaking ball. 1 ball, 1 strike. Bartlett, then Dioner Navarro, and leadoff man B.J. Upton. Those are the 3 due up to start the 5th inning for Tampa Bay. They are trailing now 3-1.
And just like a manager, he's only worried about this game.
You know, he's winning, and man, that was a downer. I mean, we felt like everything we peppered him with was bringing him down a little bit more, but he knows how important Youkilis and Pedroia are. I mean, they are the grit to the Boston Red Sox and the energy to the Boston Red Sox, and he clearly knows how important this guy is, Josh Beckett, to his team's fate this year.
Youkilis hitting .393, and Pedroia came into the game hitting .325. Not to mention the fact that he was the MVP in the American League last year.
He's also a guy, when he gets hot, he can stay hot for a long period of time. I mean, he is just unbelievable at being able to sustain a hitting streak or a hot streak.
2-2 the count to Bartlett, but both of them down with injury right now. Well, That's some power pitching right there.
Well, that high fastball has been elusive for a good part of the season for Josh Beckett. After we talked earlier about opening day, he was very good against Tampa, but since then it had really been a struggle. And there you see the setup away, but that fastball kind of runs up to arm side, but in a spot where at 96 miles per hour, Jason Bartlett can't catch up.
But he had thrown him a couple of breaking balls earlier, and that set that fastball up. 2 breaking balls away.
See Beckett, who had the ERA above 6.7. The worst in the American League coming into this game. A lot of base runners, and that's part of the puzzle because at his best, it was tough to get on base against Beckett. But tonight, the Rays put 3 men on in the first inning and only a couple since as Navarro hits a foul. Navarro grounded out to first his first time. Tomorrow night, Monday Night Baseball, 7 o'clock Eastern. It's the Braves and the New York Mets, the red hot Mets. They've won 7 in a row. Then on Wednesday Night Baseball, presented by Smirnoff Ice at 7 Eastern, the Dodgers minus Manny take on the Philadelphia Phillies with Howard, with Utley, with Worth. They're loaded. ESPN News will be shown in Los Angeles and Philly on Wednesday. Hit very softly. Beckett, bare hands, got him. Wow, he looked like a middle infielder on that one.
I don't know, John, what you were watching, but he was kind of lumbering over there, John.
If Lugo goes down tonight, he'll go out and play shortstop.
Well, watch
this.
this. Now let's look at this again. I know this is going to be in slow motion, but John, wait a minute.
Look at that.
No, that's not a
unbelievable.
Joe took that as an insult to middle.
Yeah, right. I did because he was kind of lumbering over there.
Well, the one thing he did is he stays low to throw the ball. He doesn't stand straight up, and a lot of times the pitcher will field that ball, stand up and throw, and it takes some time. But part of it is he knows his base runner, and he can lumber because the opposing catcher, Navarro, lumbering a little bit as well.
He's wasted just being on the mound. Put him out there at put him out there at second base.
That was really Joe took that as a personal affront to middle infielders.
No. He looked like a pitcher going after the ball.
And a lot of pitchers.
And he didn't look like Greg Maddux.
I've seen a lot of pitchers wouldn't make that play. That's a foul by Upton. 0-2 the count. For a pitcher, pretty good play.
Okay, all right. I'm going to give you that.
I'll tell you, that fastball right there, 96 miles per hour. We've seen this with Beckett. And Down and Navarro talked about Matt Garza, how during the course of the game, they find more fastball. But Beckett, we saw him early in the game, 92, 94, but now at 96 miles per hour.
B.J. Upton has grounded out and singled, 1 for 2. Ball and 2 strikes now.
Josh Beckett, you see efficiency at 18.4 of the first 6 starts. That means he was having difficulty commanding his pitches, throwing a lot of pitches going deep in the count. Much more efficient tonight.
Curveball in the dirt. 2-2. Now B.J. Upton has not hit a home run so far this year. This could be his 100th at bat if it turns up being an official at bat, if he doesn't get a walk or some such thing. But no home runs for him this year. He had 2 home runs in the postseason against Josh Beckett last October to help the Rays win the American League pennant and go to the World Series. 2-2 the count.
Well, John, you're talking about the lack of home run production. Well, last year Upton had the shoulder problem, which I think affected his power a little bit, despite what he did in the postseason. Look how lean he is through his neck and shoulders now. He couldn't do any of the workouts that he had done in the past. He was just doing tubing, trying to work that shoulder back. They put pins in his shoulder, trying to piece it back together. So his strength is not all the way back yet.
And back out of play. He hit 7 home runs in the postseason. He had 4 of them against the Red Sox in the League Championship Series, after hitting only 9 home runs in the entire regular season.
Well, it gave us an indication. We thought he was getting better. Remember, we talked about that. He said he was feeling better each game, but then he did have the surgery in the offseason.
And he had changed his approach late in the season because of the shoulder problem, and started hitting more home runs. Rips that one. That'll go to the wall and up against Baltimore. He's got great speed and easily makes it into second.
Talk about Josh Beckett's fastball and how the opposition has pounded that Well, that was 96 right there, but you can see where Jason Varitek set up away, and the ball just tails back in over the plate. They want to go the outside part of the plate. Look at, tails back right into the wheelhouse for Upton, and he just crushes this. Gets that foot down, hits against the front leg. That's a beautiful swing right there. That's what happens when you miss your spot with your fastball, and it doesn't matter how hard you throw it. Big league hitters can make you pay.
And even when they're not playing, a hit against Baltimore. Orioles have had some pitching problems so far this year. That's a bloop. Drew, no. And Carl Crawford has knocked in a run with a clutch 2-out bloop single, his second hit of the game. Upton in to score, 3-2 Red Sox. So Crawford, the possible tying run, is now at first base, and with the Major League RBI leader at the plate, Carl Crawford is the Major League stolen base leader.
Well, one of the things I learned talking to Maury Wills over the years is that you have to pick your times to steal a bag. You don't just always steal in certain situations, because again, the threat of the steal also helps the hitter at the plate. He knows he's going to get a lot of fastballs.
There he goes. Varitek's throw, not nearly in time.
There was a big difference there between his start and what we saw from Upton. He was accelerating right away. See, Crawford kind of pulls his back foot back, but he turns his body, so he's not standing straight up. I mean, you see, that's not even close at second base. As Upton was, Joe Madden mentioned, he stands up before he runs.
So now Longoria with a base hit could tie the game. 1 ball, 1 strike. The pitch on which Crawford stole was a called strike. So now a ball and a strike. Burrell in the background is on deck.
And I'm surprised Beckett didn't throw over to first base. I mean, everybody in the ballpark knew Carl Crawford's going to try to steal in that situation.
And you have to give Longoria credit, because he could have jumped on the first pitch, but he gave Crawford a chance to steal and get in a scoring position.
Over Beckett. Lugo throws him out. So Beckett gives up just the one. Crawford stranded. Top of the order. Ellsbury coming up. 3-2 Red Sox. Now the Red Sox, last of the 5th inning, leading 3-2 over the Rays. And the top of the order, Ellsbury standing in against Matt Garza. Ellsbury 1 for 2. Shows bunt, takes just off the inside as Longoria came rushing in from third. Ellsbury has flied out to right center and singled to left. He'll be followed not by Pedroia. Pedroia had to leave the game with a strained right groin injury. And Julio Lugo is on deck. Then David Ortiz due up third in the inning. Off the inside again. 2-0 the count. We saw Carl Crawford steal a base. Ellsbury has only been on base one time and did not attempt to steal. He ended up going to second on a ground out by Pedroia. Diving Ibar, and Ellsbury is out number 1.
John, we talked about the quickness of Maury Wills and the difference between quickness and speed. We're going to see the speed of Lou Brock. Lou Brock was building speed as he's running. You see he's getting up faster and faster as he goes. And one thing you would notice about both of these guys, they always went in feet first. And the new thing is to go in head first now. It's kind of started with Ricky. Omar Moreno was one of the first guys I ever saw go head first that could steal bases. But you do get there faster if you go head first, but it's more dangerous, of course.
Moreno was a guy that steal 90.
Yeah, he was
more.
good.
Bunted by Lugo, and it pops foul and back out of play.
But he was the first guy I ever saw, go head first because, the older guys went feet first. But he was also tall. So when he went into that dive to get to the bag, I mean, it was almost impossible to get him because he was so fast and he had that long reach. And the difference, the reason you get there quicker is because you can extend your hand as soon as it hits the bag, you can relax it. Whereas if you go in with your foot straight like that, jam it, you can break an ankle. So it's much easier and quicker to get there going head first, but it's more dangerous because guys can go up in the air and come down on you. The throw can hit you in the head. There are so many things that can happen when you go head first. You can jam your hands against the bag, for instance.
Omar Moreno, an outstanding base stealer for the Pittsburgh Pirates. Longoria throws out Lugo. 2 down.
And we're talking Ricky Henderson. We're up to Ricky Henderson now. I mean, the guy with the greatest number of stolen bases anyone in the history of the game. And he had a little combination of quickness and speed. See, Ricky keeps his head down and builds speed as he goes, and he goes in head first. And you can dive away from the tag. You can do a lot of things if you go in head first because it allows you to grab the bag as you go by. And that was, of course, the stolen base that broke the record that Lou Brock had held.
Was it that one or the all-time career record?
Oh, yeah, the all-time career. You're right.
Let's think with every base stealer, there's a certain amount of attitude you have to have and a great instinct. There's a reason why sprinters don't play baseball and steal bases, because there's a certain instinct and intellect you have to be a great base stealer.
Definitely.
David Ortiz has struck out and he's walked. Just off the outside. Fastball at 95 miles an hour from Garza. 2-0 the count. Ortiz had a couple of good swings against Garza. Still looking for his first home run of the season. Ortiz struck out in the first, walked in the third. 2 down, bases empty. 3-2, Boston ahead. Get the shift on for Big Papa. Curve. Strike call. 2-0 count. Fastball count. Thrown the big hook. 3 infielders to the right of second with Iwamura, the second baseman, run out into right field. 30 feet or more out in right field. Third baseman Longoria is at shortstop. There's nobody at third base. A long run for Longoria. Gets there. And the Red Sox go down in order. It's one of the best innings of the night for Garza. On to the 6th inning. Pat Burrell, the cleanup hitter, coming up against Beckett.
multivitamin with more to support prostate health. Get more of what matters to you. And Drag Me to Hell from Sam Raimi, the director of Spider-Man, in theaters May 29th.
Josh Beckett with the curve, a swing and a miss by Pat Burrell. He tried to check, couldn't do it. Burrell has knocked in a run with a single. And is hit into a force play. He'll be followed by Willie Ibar and then Zobrist. 3-2, Boston ahead. And a fastball inside. Now, it kind of pains me to bring this up, but
okay.
Uh-oh.
All right.
Before the game, I'm talking to Carl Crawford.
Right.
On the right side of the batting cage. He's just come out of the cage after his first round of hitting. Then he sees you over on the other side of the cage, and I'm talking about you, Joe Morgan.
Yeah.
He says, oh, there's Joe over there. He says, I'm on the wrong side of the cage.
No offense, I think.
So Carl Crawford, I said, what is something I said? He says, no, I apologize. I didn't mean it that way. But he said, Joe told me something during the World Series last year, and I wasn't hitting the ball well, and I got 2 hits in that game, and I really want to kind of pick his brain again here tonight. I hate to tell that story, actually, but
yeah, now the people in Boston are going to be mad at me even more. But now I'm going to go back because I didn't say anything about what I talked to Poppy about, but I did talk to Poppy today too. So I actually, I talk to a lot of players, and if a player asks me for help or needs help, I give it to them. It doesn't matter which team they play for or whatever. And last year in the season, he was struggling a little bit, meaning Carl Crawford, and a couple of the guys came over and they started talking to me, and I just gave him a little suggestion about how to do certain things. It was actually the World Series, so it wasn't Boston, so Boston fans don't get upset. It was actually the World Series when they were getting ready, where they were playing the Phillies, and I had a conversation with some of them.
Here's a tip for you. He's 7 for his last 10.
Yeah.
Where they're going good, don't give them tips.
Well, they didn't ask me. No, he didn't ask me.
Yeah, the guys who are struggling, talk to them.
No, he didn't ask me this time, but he actually was thanking me. He said I hadn't seen you since the World Series or whatever, but that's what it was, John. It was the World Series, so Philly fans might get upset, but Boston fans, it wasn't Boston.
Because I always liked Carl a lot.
Before that.
Loved to watch him play,
and he's always spoken highly of you, Jim.
Yeah.
And then the next thing is, oh, I'm on the wrong side of the cage. Joe's over there.
Well, young guys listen better than the veterans anyway.
I did kind of eavesdrop in your conversation with Ortiz, and I noticed this is literally true. He had a round of batting practice, and it wasn't very impressive. I'm used to watching Poppy blast balls all over Fenway Park, and he had a little chat with you, and honestly, and there it was, you and Poppy talk. Then he stepped in the cage, and he started hitting shots the way you would expect from David Ortiz.
And that's why I said I really think that he's going to start to swing the bat well.
The girl swing. Yes, he did. First base umpire Angel Hernandez rings him up on appeal.
And the one thing that's so different about hitting, it doesn't happen just like right now. It's something you have to work on, for the next couple of days. And I said I think it'll get better and better as he starts to swing the bat. I won't tell you exactly what I said to him, but I think it will get better. And I've seen better swings tonight, as I said, than I saw while watching on television, this week, watching some of their games.
Here is Willie Ibar, but the frustration for Ortiz is palpable right now.
Very, very, very difficult. This is after his last at bat. He goes into the dugout, and he's upset. And it's tough when you've been been so successful. You've been a big star, doing all these things, and people are counting on you. It's very difficult, to handle. And he told me that he's getting great help from Tito. Tito said, well, Terry Francona, Terry said, after all these years of patting this guy on the back when he runs by after driving in winning runs for us, I'm not going to be the one to abandon him now. And I think that's very, very important for a guy like David Ortiz, who needs right now, he needs a little, tender love and care. And the other thing that, happens is they have such a good relationship, meaning Ortiz and Francona, that at some point you're no longer manager-player. You become family, and that's what David Ortiz says about Francona. He's more like my family.
2-1 to Willie Ibar. Playing first base tonight in place of Carlos Pena, getting a night off. And a foul.
We watched Ortiz there, David Ortiz, and it shows you how much he cares.
And the players do care.
And they care. But the problem with baseball is that the harder you try, and clearly he is trying as hard as he possibly can. Sometimes the harder you try, the worse you do. And the key is to have to relax and take pressure off yourself. But when you're struggling, it's so difficult to make yourself do that.
Shallow left. Hurrying Bay. No. Lugo over to retrieve it. And Ibar will end up at second base. A bloop double.
Well, you're correct, Stephen, that you have to try to relax. But, speaking from experience, it is just so hard to do. I mean, to relax when you think your teammates are counting on you and you know they need you to do certain things and you're not able to do that. And it's just a difficult time. And there you see no home runs and 115 at-bats. That's, for Big Papi, that's amazing, especially in this ballpark, where he can hit it out to left field and it definitely can hit it out to right field, but he hasn't been pulling the ball.
Just talking there with Dave Magadan, the hitting instructor for the Red Sox, as Ben Zobrist comes up.
But I think it was really upset the last at bat, John, because that pitch was down. It was a fastball down and in, and that's the pitch that Big Papi used to just hit hard to right field, and he did not pull it. He was a little late getting to it. But sometimes you have to give the pitchers credit as well.
This game can be such a humbling game, though. When you think you're on top of the world and everything's going right, and, you're carrying a team, and then all of a sudden you tend to lose it. I mean, you see David Ortiz, Josh Beckett, a couple years ago, 20-7 record, unbelievable season he had, and he's searching for it a little bit now, certainly better tonight, but he's been searching to try to find his command.
That's a curveball, his 101st pitch of the game, in there for a strike, and it's 2-1.
But make no mistake about it, hitting is more difficult than pitching.
Completely agree.
And here's the real the thing about hitting that you have to come to grips with. Even if you're a good hitter, you're going to make 7 outs out of 10. That's hitting 300. So you're going to fail those 7 times, and you have to be able to deal with that and keep going.
And that sounds easy, but having been one that couldn't do that, I couldn't do that. I was one that I didn't want to fail. So it was not that the others do, but I was a perfectionist. So when I failed, I didn't worry about that one failure. I added all the other ones on top of that. You cannot do that and be a successful baseball player.
I'm sure that's a problem for Big Papi right now.
Yeah.
The failures have been mounting up as Zobrist draws a walk. 2 men on and 1 man out, and Iwamura coming up. John Farrell, the Boston pitching coach, is going to go out now to chat with Josh Beckett, who has a 1-run lead with which to work here in the 6th inning. E60, presented by Ford, is on ESPN Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern. Among the stories they'll be covering this week, an in-depth look at the president of the Ultimate Fighting Championships, Dana White. Tom Ferry reports on one of the more controversial commissioners in sports today. It's Tuesday at 7 Eastern on ESPN. Hideki Okajima, the left-hander, up in the Boston bullpen. Josh Beckett at 103 pitches for the game, working with only 1 out here in the 6th inning. And as Okajima warms up in the Boston bullpen, his countryman Iwamura stands in, trying to do some damage here against Okajima's teammate Josh Beckett. Base hit to tie the game. Ibar at second, Zobrist at first. 1 ball and no strikes. The Red Sox seeing Willie Ibar hit the bloop double to start this inning. He's now at second, the possible tying run. On Tuesday, they'll be up against Willie Ibar's kid brother, Eric Ibar, who's an infielder with the Los Angeles Angels and Anaheim. The Red Sox are heading out to Anaheim after the game tonight. Have a day off there tomorrow. And that's a ball too high. The Rays, who've been on the road most of the first part of the season, go to Baltimore. They'll have a day off in Baltimore tomorrow. And then play the Orioles starting Tuesday. Joe Maddon's club, when they finish that series in Baltimore, will have played 35 games, and 22 of the 35 will have been played on the road. lot of home games upcoming, and they do well at their home field in St. Petersburg. The Dome down there, Tropicana Field.
And it appears to me, John, that he is overthrowing now. He was reaching back, trying to get that little extra, because he knows this is probably his last inning if he could get through it. And he was reaching back, and the first two were high, and then he dropped his arm a little bit there, and that one ran away. So struggling definitely with his control right now.
And again, a 4-pitch walk. He's walked 2 in a row. He had only walked 1 until these last 2 hitters in 5 1/3 innings. The bases are loaded with 1 out, and Bartlett, Kojima, heating up in the bullpen. There is Ibar at third. Now Zobrist has moved to second, and Iwamura takes up at first. Bartlett, and this may be why he's still in here, Joe and Steve, threw 107 pitches when he's looked like he's starting to fade. Bartlett has struck out against him in each of his 2 at-bats. And a curve for a strike.
I actually like that pitch right there. He had difficulty commanding his fastball to Iwamura. So Jason Varitek, the veteran, says, look, let's change this up a little bit. And a lot of times you say, go to the breaking ball, and the pitcher has to concentrate on the arm speed, getting the ball, the arm out in front of his body. Good pitch, way to work ahead, especially start with the breaking ball. Now he's got some different options as to where he goes.
Middle infield double play depth, pulled in at the corners.
Yeah,
and again, gets under that fastball a little bit.
Well, the breaking ball allows you to slow your arm speed down. You slow down to throw the breaking ball like that. And the fastball, you're going to overthrow it again. You don't necessarily slow your arm speed down, but it allows you to slow down and get on top of the ball. And he's definitely getting underneath the fastballs.
So the Red Sox dugout there with the career numbers of these Rays hitters against Josh Beckett.
One of the issues for Josh Beckett, when he's wanted to go away from a right-hander with his fastball, instead of getting out in front and extending to the outer part of the plate, he's kind of throwing across his body, so he's getting rotation up top. That last pitch right there, when he gets a little bit tired, he just does not have the strength to get out in front and hit that spot away.
Bases loaded, 1 out. A ball and a strike to Bartlett. Right center field, Drew going back. He's got it, but tagging from third, Ibar, he scores the tying run. Also tagging Zobrist, and he moves to third. It is 3-3.
And that's what I was talking about with Bartlett, John, last year. Even though he may have struggled, and he's struggling maybe today against Beckett, but guess what? He does the right thing. He goes the other way and gets the tying run home. You know, he could have tried to pull that ball, hit a ground ball, maybe hit into a double play or whatever, but he does the right things to help you win.
And his first sacrifice fly this year. But that's what they needed. And he got it done. Got that runner home from third with less than 2 down, and you don't actually need a hit to get it done. He got it done. Here is the owner, Navarro. And he's a guy the Rays really need to get going. He had an outstanding year at the bat last year. As the curve is in there for a called strike. Navarro 0 for 2 tonight. He came into the game hitting only 188, down to 184 now. Navarro hit 295 last year, drove in 54 runs. Zobrist at third, Iwamura at first. Bailey on the bag with Iwamura. On the inside corner. Fastball at 94 with some movement coming back to the plate.
Well, that's a 2-seam fastball at 94 miles per hour that he starts in off the plate that makes you think it's a ball, and then he has that 2-seam action running it back to the corner.
Zobrist at third, Iwamura at first. Leadoff man BJ Upton on deck. 3-3 the score. Ooh, got a piece of that one.
That was a pretty good breaking ball because he got it down. But the danger of throwing the breaking ball in that situation is when you are a little tired, the ball seems to roll a little bit. And that one is down, as you can see, so that lets him get away with that pitch. It wasn't as sharp as the first breaking ball he threw.
2 on, 2 out. Heading to second, Iwamura, and he steals it uncontested.
And I don't understand why it took him so long. The way the Rays run, why you wouldn't let him go earlier in the count. But I guess he wanted to hold the hole over there open for him at first base. But once he got 2 strikes, he figured he may not pull it anyway.
7th steal of the year for Iwamura. 2nd steal of the night for the Rays. Now 2 men in scoring position. A ball and 2 strikes. Very high. 2-2.
Talking to the Rays coaching staff, they said that Navarro's struggles this year, a guy who really swung the bat well last season, has come because he's been too pull conscious, rolling over on it instead of using the whole field. They said lately, looks like he's starting to get back on track, looking for that left center field gap. Staying on the ball a little longer.
Just off the inside. Fans thought it was in there. 3-2.
Well, it was definitely out of the strike zone. I think the fans thought they heard something. So it's around the plate, and you can see Varitek pull it by quite a bit.
3-2. It was 0-2. This will be the 33rd pitch of this inning.
And this will tell you a lot about how he feels right now.
Pop foul and back out of play. He may have swung a ball 4 right there.
Yeah, but at least Beckett said, I'm coming after you. He didn't try to throw him a breaking ball even though he had first base open. He said, I'm coming after you. That could have been Varitek saying, just give me this one more good pitch in this inning.
Well, they keep coming inside with that fastball on Navarro. And as much as he's been struggling, if they throw him a breaking ball, he's probably not going to hit it anyways. If I'm him, I'm going to cheat, try to pick up 2 runs right here on that inside fastball and see if I can't get out in front of it and pull it into right field.
3-2 the count.
I think that's a good thought, but then you're guessing that he's going to throw you that fastball because with 2 strikes, you got to make sure you put it in play with runners in second and third.
And the curve.
That's what I thought. So you got to protect against the curveball at all times with 2 strikes. Great pitch, even though it was out of the strike zone.
And likely the final pitch of the night for Beckett, who threw 35 pitches in that inning. 3-3 the score. Jason Bay, Mike Lowell coming up.
Number 4 in a row. And the Red Sox have gone ahead on 4 swings of the bat here in the 3rd.
Well, I've never seen anything like that, John. I've never seen 4 home runs in a row.
It was April 22nd, 2007 on Sunday Night Baseball. Chase Wright in his 2nd Major League start had a 3-0 lead, and then the Red Sox hit 4 consecutive homers. Manny, J.D. Drew, Mike Lowell, and Jason Varitek is the man who hit the 4th. And fans help us celebrate 20 years of Major League Baseball coverage on ESPN by going to ESPN.com and voting for the 20th year All-Star team. Go to the MLB page and vote on the players you think are All-Star caliber. We'll announce the winners in the second half of the season. And bookmark that page, the MLB Index at ESPN.com. Greatest baseball writers in the country are virtually all right there, virtually every day. In foul ground, that is Ibar, and Jason Bay is retired. A big out for Garza. Let's go to the studio. Steve Berthium with the Sports Center right now. Okay, Steve, big night for Boston sports. Stanley Cup playoffs. The Bruins are still alive. Base hit for Lowell. The Celtics trying to avoid staring into the abyss. If they lose, they'll be down 3-1, and they are leading. And on the wall out in left field on the hand-operated out-of-town scoreboard, there's the Bruins final. And here at Fenway, they've also got one eye on the game and one eye down on the Celtics game in Orlando.
John, you said it's our 23rd anniversary. It means I've spent 28 Mother's Days with you. So I want to
20 Mother's
20. I want to a nice thought there by J.D. Drew. I want to wish my mom, Ollie, a happy Mother's Day, and Teresa, and all the Morgan mothers. I want to wish them all a happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day.
My mom, Winona.
Yeah.
Don't forget her.
And my mom as well, and my wife, 4 boys at home, and everybody in the trucks yelling to say Happy Mother's Day to their moms as well.
Right. See, now you're getting the knack of it.
Steve, Happy Mother's Day to you.
Thanks.
Into the Boston dugout. 0-2 the count to Drew, and he cracked his bat in that one. Gets a new one from the bat boy. Drew is 0 for 2 with an RBI in this game. It's 3-3. Runner at first. 1 out. 90. Got her Boston jersey on and is surrounded by family, loved ones.
Great. Isn't that what Mother's Day is all about? Showing the appreciation you have?
Well, not that you and I would know, because we're always with each other on Mother's Day. That's what I've heard. That's what we've seen in these ballparks.
There's that unhittable breaking ball that he threw to Ortiz earlier, and now he gets J.D. Drew on it.
Matt Garza's 6th strikeout of the game. Join Major League Baseball in going to bat against breast cancer. To learn more about Susan G. Komen and Major League Baseball's program to fight breast cancer, go to MLB.com.
And John, Steve and I, we wore the pink to go with, for the bat, the cancer, the Mother's Day. What happened? You didn't get the memo?
You were too busy giving tips to Carl Crawford and Big Papi to get me in on that. Here is Jeff Bailey in place of Youkilis, playing first base for the Red Sox tonight. With Youkilis, who is hitting .393. He'd been missing since Tuesday, by the way.
And he was hitting a hard .293, John, not just, .393. It was soft, hard. That was a hard .393.
Leading the American League in batting average. And he's been an RBI man. And there aren't many guys better than him at first base either, defensively.
Can you hit a soft .393?
Early in the season you can. Yeah. Early in the year.
Is Youkilis. Youkilis has what they variously been termed left side soreness, a potential oblique problem. They're hoping he'll be able to play on Tuesday. 1 ball and 2 strikes now to Bailey, who hit a double his last time and scored a run.
Like the one thing they're going to have to guard against if Dustin Pedroia is out for any period of time, feeling like, boy, we got to rush to get Kevin Youkilis back in there. The Red Sox know that it's a long season, and you don't want to push it to have a guy come back a day too soon and end up costing you a couple of weeks on the disabled list.
Well, I remember we were here 2 weeks ago when the Yankees were in town for Sunday Night Baseball. Red Sox injury problems haven't just occurred this week. Nick Green was the shortstop. Lugo wasn't yet back. And that night, Kevin Youkilis, who's a first baseman slash third baseman, he was the backup shortstop. And I remember asking him that night, I said, have you ever played shortstop before? He said, I think when I was 10 in Little League.
Well, if you were going to listen to you, they could have asked Josh Beckett to go out there and pick him up if they needed.
Well, he would have been great.
Yeah. Yeah. Go, Josh. Go play shortstop for us. Yeah.
John, he doesn't forget anything, does he?
What a play he made tonight. Just like a middle infielder. 3-2 the count. Listen, Cal Ripken got the first, hit a little dribbler to Ozzie Guillen at short years ago. Ozzie tried to barehand it. Cal later got to second, and timeout was taken, and Cal went over to Ozzie and said, you know, I thought you had time to glove that ball. Why'd you barehand it? And Ozzie said, don't you know, if you barehand it, they don't give you an error. That's what I was thinking. Josh Beckett, he's got the knowledge to be a middle infielder. That is ball 4. That's pretty good, gritty trip to the plate for Jeff Bailey.
Definitely.
That is the second walk allowed by Garza.
You know, if you take a look at the Tampa Bay Rays and you say, you know, what's going to give them an opportunity to repeat? And I have some doubts about the pitching staff because, you know, they got rid of Edwin Jackson, who I liked a lot. And after Garza and James Shields, it's really not over. You don't have guys that can overpower the opposition or whatever. So I think they have some question marks as far as, you know, there's the rotation there. But, I mean, I think they have some question marks in that rotation as far as I'm concerned. Well, you can see the earned run averages right now with the guys in between. But
here's Varitek, who in a similar spot in his last time up hit a double to knock in a run. Not this time. But got the out at second as Bartlett fed Iwamura for the force out on Bailey. On to the 7th inning. Top of the order. Upton, Crawford, and Longoria. New pitcher coming in for Boston. It's tied. Sox 3, the Rays 3 as we start the 7th inning. And a new pitcher's come in for Boston in relief of Josh Beckett. Hideki Okajima, number 37. And he has become one of the most dependable late inning relievers, setting up the closer in the American League since arriving here in Boston from Japan. So far this year, 3.68 ERA, which is high for him, but tough to hit. Look at that, 14 2/3 innings, only 10 hits allowed, but 18 strikeouts. And he has that kind of odd aspect of his delivery where he looks at the ground just before he throws the pitch. Ball 1 to B.J. Upton, who bluffed the bunt. Upton has had a single and a double in 3 trips, scored a run. He came in here riding a terrible slump, but he's had the 2 hits in this game. Carl Crawford, he's the guy you should have been giving advice to, not Carl Crawford. He's doing great. Crawford is 2 for 3. He's on deck. Well, you said he wasn't giving. You weren't giving.
I wasn't
asking for advice.
No, he wasn't asking for advice today. We were just talking about last year.
That's what he told me.
Yeah.
If I had known when I was playing I could have gotten advice from Joe Morgan, I'd have called Joe. I didn't have your number back then.
Hey, well, guess what? I mean, I got advice from Willie Mays, Hank Aaron, Pete Rose, Johnny Bench, all the great players I played with and around. I got a lot of advice from them. So I'm only passing along really what I learned.
This is Nick Green, who's in for Pedroia at second base. Pedroia had to leave after the 3rd inning with a strained right groin. 1 out.
Let's take a look at how we talk about controlling the running game. We talked about the release from the pitcher to the plate. Watch Josh Beckett here on a slide step early in the game. B.J. Upton stealing 1.18 seconds to the plate. 1.3 or less is what you're looking for. Now here's the full leg lift for Beckett with Carl Crawford running, and they don't get him there. That's 1.4 seconds to get the ball to the catcher from pitcher to catcher. So the way you control the running game, get the ball as quickly as you can to the catcher, and then from the catcher's glove to second base.
That was Crawford's 22nd steal this year in 22 attempts.
But if you're a base stealer, you're not concerned, being honest with you, how quickly the guy gets the ball to the plate. You know if he's quick release, then what you have to do is get a bigger jump. Get a bigger lead and make sure you get a time your jump better. But that will stop most, base runners. Which brings me to the point. There is a big difference between guys that steal bases, meaning guys that may steal 20, 25 bases, and the guy that's a base stealer. And the big difference is, fans can help you decide that. If you have a runner at first base, tie ball game in the 9th inning, do you bunt him over or do you let him steal? The base stealers can steal a base when everybody in the park knows they're going. And that is the difference. You have guys that can steal bases innings 1 through 7, and their total may end up being 30 because they play so many games. But guys that can steal bases when it counts, in the 8th inning, 9th inning of a tie game, or even if you're 1 run down, without having to give up that out to move the runners into scoring position, that tells you who's a base stealer. The manager will let you know right away.
Crawford high in the air to left. Here's Bay. He's got room. 2 down.
And I said the biggest steal in Red Sox history, they wouldn't have won that World Series, probably the first one, without Dave Roberts here stealing the base. Everybody in the park knew he was going. He stole the base. Miller drove him in, and they ended up, that's the tying run, and they ended up winning the ball game in extra innings and were able to come back from a 3-0 deficit to beat the Yankees and go to the World Series.
It is something no team has ever done in the history of Major League Baseball before or since. And 3 games to none in a best-of-7 series and then come back and win the series. They were down by a run in the 9th inning of that game, and Mariano Rivera, the king of the postseason, was the man on the mound.
And I remember telling you that they could come back from 3-0, and you said they couldn't.
I don't remember that. I remember, you told me that the night that they lost 19-8 in Game 3, I believe. I still believe they're going to come back and win it, John.
Yeah.
2 down, nobody on. Longoria, the hitter, against Okajima. Longoria, the Major League RBI leader, but 0 for 2 with a walk tonight against Beckett. But they got to be so careful with him because that left field wall beckons when a guy like Longoria is up here. He and Upton were peppering that wall, hit several balls over that wall in the league championship series last October. And that is in for a called strike.
When I go back and look at the breakdown we just did with the slide step and then the full stride for Beckett, two things strike me. One, B.J. Upton would have been safe at second if Beckett hadn't gone to the slide step. And two, why would Josh Beckett not slide step with Carl Crawford on first base with 2 outs? You've got to know he's trying to steal there. 1.4 to the plate is not going to get it done.
But you also have to remember when you slide step, you don't get your full range of motion as a pitcher, and you've got Evan Longoria up there. If you make a mistake, then he's going to hit it out of the ballpark. So the slide step works effectively sometimes, but I don't think you can just go out there and consistently use the slide step, I think, because it takes too much away from your delivery.
So you had the slide step with Crawford hitting and did not use it with Longoria hitting.
And see why I would have done it in that situation if I'm Beckett. I'm assuming Longoria's taking the pitch to let him steal. So I might opt to go there and think I'm going to throw a strike. He's probably taking here, and I'm going to go to the slide step because I've got to give my catcher a chance to throw him out.
Sounds like if you were thinking that and you throw it and he wasn't going and he was swinging, you'd be 2 runs
Yeah,
down.
I would. I'd be going, why did I slide step?
Why? Exactly.
3-2 to the dangerous Longoria. There is Lugo. And a perfect 7th inning from Okajima. Top of the order, Nick Green, the 9th base hitter. Then the top of the order, Ellsbury to follow. Last of the 7th. It's 3-3. Lowe's And they say it's one of the great experiences in baseball to sit in the monster seats above the big green wall out in left field, the green monster, the famous piece of territory here at Fenway Park. They put those in 2003, and they have been much coveted ever since. The monster seats. And nobody has reached up into those seats in this particular game. Sorry, Mom. We love the Red Sox, too.
Well, I hope they had lunch or breakfast or something with Mom before they came to the game.
Mother's Day. And many moms are spending Mother's Day right here at Fenway Park with their loved ones. The Tampa Bay Rays, who beat out the Red Sox and not only won the division title last year, but then they won the League Championship Series against Boston and went to the World Series. This year, with their early schedule heavily weighted toward road games, and with their starting pitchers really struggling, you saw those earned run averages a little bit ago. Other than Matt Garza, they've had some early problems in that regard, and yet here they are playing Boston for the 10th time this year. If they win this game, they'll be 7-3 against the Red Sox. And Nick Green could not catch up to that high fastball from Matt Garza. It is 0-2.
Well, there are some quirks in the schedule for sure. I mean, the Red Sox and Rays don't meet again, I think, until August 4th. The Red Sox head out on a road trip to the West Coast, and it'll be their final West Coast trip of the season.
Well, that's great if you're Boston.
Sure is.
1-2 the count with Jacoby Ellsbury on deck. Dan Wheeler, the right-hander. Brian Schaus, the left-hander, up in the Rays bullpen. As you saw, Garza has gone past 100 pitches for the game. That bullpen will be ready if needed. Green is 2 for 2 with an RBI in this game. 2-2. Earlier we had Joe Maddon live from the Rays dugout. He said that with Matt Garza, he'll let him go a bit deeper than some of the other Rays starters. And he said it's not that unusual for him to go maybe 115 pitches or even more. 2-2. Shallow center, Upton gliding in, one away.
That's one of the reasons when Upton plays that shallow, he can cover that ground.
Monday Night Baseball tomorrow night, 7 Eastern, the Braves and the Mets. And then on Wednesday Night Baseball, presented by Smirnoff Ice at 7 Eastern, the Dodgers minus Manny and the Phillies from Citizens Bank Park, the world champion Phillies. ESPN News will be shown in both the LA and Philadelphia markets. Tomorrow night, Johan Santana, who's pitching brilliantly early on this year against Derek Lowe, who's the ace of the Braves. That'll be 7 o'clock on Monday with the Mets and the Braves. So that's a great matchup. We saw Derek Lowe opening night in Philly right here on Sunday night, and he just was untouchable.
And remember, the game that Santana lost was because of a fly ball dropped in left field.
A couple of unearned runs.
Yeah.
One problem the Mets have had is they can't score for Johan Santana. They have 12 runs scored in his 6 starts. Think about that. He's 4-1.
I'll just keep him working hard. I mean, he's the ace. He's the man.
Throw a shutout and hit a home run.
That was the deal, right?
That was the deal.
That's why you get paid the big bucks. But he's getting it done. There's no question about it.
And how many pitchers would have won 4 of those games?
Right.
Not with so little support. And he might have won, as Joe mentioned, a 5th were it not for a drop fly ball.
Well, they're getting their money's worth from Johan Santana. It's hard to be a big money guy. Ask CC Sabathia coming to New York. But from day one, Johan Santana has been phenomenal for the Mets. And they really need him because the rest of the rotation has been a little bit inconsistent, but it looks like now maybe they're starting to put it together.
Ellsbury, a guy that Garza wants to keep off the bases at this time of a tie game. This is where Maury Wills was hated if you weren't a Dodger fan when Maury was at his best, because he'd figure out a way to get on base at a tie game late, and you could not throw him out. He was going to steal second and maybe third. And that's a called strike. And Maury Wills, Joe, you've shown some of these base stealers and what they did so well, but I always remember when Maury Wills was setting base stealing records, the guy who hit right behind him in the order was Jim Gilliam, and he often was behind in the count, not just 0-1, but sometimes 0-2, letting Maury have the pitches he needed to steal, because that was such a key part of their offense. There is Upton.
Well, he's not hitting well, but his defense is always good. And that's B.J. Upton in center field. He got a great jump on that ball. Back to the Maury Wills thing. Junior Gilliam had a different way of taking a pitch. He would square around the bunt and pull the bat back. What that did was keep the catcher from jumping out there too quickly and gave Maury that little, maybe an extra half a step that he needed sometimes to make it. So you need someone behind you. If you're going to steal 100 bases, you need to give credit to the guy that hits behind you, too, because he has to have helped you over the course of the season.
Well, we saw Longoria take one to let Crawford steal a base back in the 5th inning. But I don't know how often they want Longoria to be taking pitches, because Longoria is, right now, he's at the top of the baseball world for driving in runs. He's the premier RBI man in baseball at the moment.
Well, one thing Longoria said, Carl Crawford runs early in the count. He doesn't waste a lot of time. He gets over there and he's ready to go, which is why it was surprising that Beckett didn't throw over at all.
0-2 the count to Julio Lugo. Up for the second time. He replaced Pedroia in the 4th inning. In the lineup, he moved to short, and then Nick Green, the shortstop, moved over to second where Pedroia had been. Pedroia suffered a strained right groin batting in the 3rd inning, and it had to be removed from the game. Red Sox without Pedroia, also without Youkilis, who has been missing since Tuesday. Garza in the building. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
He's muscling up, trying to muster everything he has in him. He overthrew that pitch, trying to make it the perfect breaking ball.
But he also knows that he's on a short leash, and he wants to make that his last pitch of the ball game. At least he was hoping for it to be, at least this inning, but I don't think he's going to go much longer either.
David Ortiz on deck. If Lugo gets aboard, Big Papi would come up. They have the left-hander up in the bullpen, as you saw, along with the right-hander Wheeler. And a foul. 1 ball, 2 strikes to Lugo. Lugo hit a home run here yesterday, right past the left field foul pole, up into the monster seats. It was one of the few things that Red Sox fans had to cheer about yesterday. Tampa Bay beat them 14-5 yesterday. The Rays have roughed up the Red Sox on more than one occasion so far this year. 6 wins and 3 losses against them. 1-2. Just off the outside with that nasty slider.
Take a look at the numbers right there. The Tampa Bay Rays against the Red Sox and the success they've had, scoring runs, pitching. Against a very good team, but against everybody else, not quite fared as well.
2-2 the count to Lugo. That is a high foul. It will go out of play off the right field line. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Tampa Bay Rays, who were the surprise of the baseball world last year. Although I remember Brian Cashman saying they weren't a surprise to me because people knew they had so much young talent. But I think that they surprised everybody in arriving maybe a year earlier than people would have thought. They were going to be much more competitive last year than they'd ever been. But they were the whole package last year, maybe a year ahead of time. There is Iwamura, and that's 7 innings completed now by Matt Garza, the scourge of the Red Sox. He's 7-1 against them. On to the 8th inning. Burrell coming up, still tied.
Presented by Taco Bell. Think outside the bun. And in part by Universal Pictures comic adventure Land of the Lost, starring Will Ferrell, in theaters June 5th.
From Boston, Sunday Night Baseball. This is John Miller with Joe Morgan and Steve Phillips. Happy to have you with us. We'll be here every Sunday, 8 Eastern Time. Hideki Okajima back for his second inning of work. Strike one called to Pat Burrell, the cleanup hitter. Burrell has singled home a run, hitting one off the left field wall in the first inning. He's hit into a force out and struck out. And that is low. 1 ball, 1 strike. 3 runs, 6 hits for Tampa Bay. 3 runs, 7 hits, and 1 error for the Red Sox. Burrell only 1 home run so far for the Rays. They figure that's going to change. They saw that he was pretty steadily 25, 30 home runs and 100 RBIs for the Phillies year after year. And that's a called strike on the inside. Now it's 1-2.
Pat Burrell's still trying to figure this designated hitter thing out a little bit. You know, he'd always played in the outfield in the National League, coming over here, and sitting around between at bats is a little bit of an issue for him. But he said, you know what, I'm sitting in the dugout and I'm watching Carl Crawford and I'm watching B.J. Upton, and I'm saying, as the crowd erupts here, it must be the Celtics or Bruins, right? Got to be a reaction there. That tells the story right there. The piggyback ride.
It shocked Pat Burrell on what was going on. He did a double take there at the plate.
Well, I would have too if I was there.
1-2 the count.
Joey flinched like you did on that inside.
Yeah, you're right.
1-2 the count.
I was saying on Pat Burrell, he's trying to figure out the designated hitter. He said, but I'm sitting on the bench and I'm watching B.J. Upton and Carl Crawford covering ground in the outfield, and I realize I have no business being out there with those guys able to run the ball down. So
a lot of guys do different things. He mentioned Jim Thome rides the bicycle. Other guys go up and do other things in the clubhouse. I'm surprised. I think it's okay to walk in the club and do certain things, but I would think you'd want to get out here and watch what's going on, just so that'll help keep your head in the game, even though your body's not in the game, so to speak.
Well, he did say he tries to keep moving.
Yeah.
Moves up and down the runway between the clubhouse and the dugout just to keep the juices flowing. Sometimes he said he'll go in and watch the opposing pitcher when he's not going to be coming up in an inning, just to get a real idea of what the guy's doing. And now it's 3-2.
John, we also had a visit from the owner of the Red Sox, John Henry. And I wanted to mention that because Bill Russell, the great Celtic, we just saw the Celtics win the game, was here for the last couple of days. They're involved in a mentoring program together, the Boston Red Sox and Bill Russell, called Mass Mentoring, and they formed a partnership.
Strike 3. The splitter strikes out Burrell.
And we talked about, Bill called me yesterday and was telling me how great it was to be associated with the mentoring program, and the Red Sox have been great. And in fact, I think I mentioned it to you before, Bill Russell's wife, Marilyn, passed away a couple of months ago, and they named one of the scholarships in her honor. And there's John Henry. And you brought his personal life into it. I didn't, but, he came over to say hello to us.
Well, I heard he was going to get married.
Yeah. And that's the young lady I saw on the cover of the magazine yesterday.
Well, congratulations.
Congratulations, sure. Yeah. Done a great job since he's taken over here in Boston. Obviously, the fans continue to support. The Red Sox are about as good as any team in Major League Baseball, giving back to the community. Very charitable organization.
The Jimmy Fund, for many years, the #1 charity of the Red Sox, and a lot of time and effort given by the Red Sox organization, Red Sox players, and Red Sox fans to the Red Sox Foundation, and also the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute fighting cancer in children, the Jimmy Fund. 2-1 the count to Willie Ibar. But this is really a renaissance of Red Sox baseball. This is a golden age of Red Sox baseball. All those years without a World Series win. The Yankees won 26 World Series. The Red Sox didn't win any. And now Boston has turned that around big time. The Red Sox are the team that's putting together an American League dynasty. They won 2 World Series. They did so in a 4-year period, 2004 and again in 2007. Now the Boston Celtics have tied up that series, and now they're coming back here to Boston for Game 5. So welcome those who've been watching the Celtics-Orlando game. I'm John Miller with Joe Morgan and Steve Phillips. We're at Fenway Park, and the Red Sox and Rays, they were the top 2 teams in the American League East last year. They battled right up to Game 7 in the League Championship Series before the Rays beat the Sox and went to the World Series. The Celtics won that game by 1 point over the Magic. Dwight Howard and the Magic.
And Baby Davis hit a shot at the buzzer to win it.
3-2. Strike 3 call. 2 consecutive strikeouts to start the inning from Okajima, who has retired 5 in a row since coming out in relief of Josh Beckett to start the 7th.
Hideki Okajima hits his spots. I mean, it's the command of his pitches, and it's even more remarkable with that delivery, with his head looking down to the ground as he's releasing the ball. But tremendous command on the outside part of the plate.
Ramon Ramirez has been warming up in the bullpen. And Terry Francona is going to go to him here with Zobrist coming up. Okajima, big round of applause for a job done well. 3-3. TV, the ultimate baseball experience, featuring 100 out-of-market games per week live on your computer. For more details, visit MLB.tv, where baseball is always on. We're in the visitors' half of the 8th inning, and there is Ramon Ramirez in relief of Okajima. And Zobrist will switch around back left-handed against him. Zobrist is hitting .225 left-handed, .375 right-handed. So manager Terry Francona made the move to have him hit from the side in which he's not hitting that well. Although he still has power as a lefty as he fouls this one back. He's got 5 home runs all told this year and only 66 official at-bats.
He does have a lot of power. He's a guy that does a nice job coming off the bench, a threat, and a little more power from the left side of the plate. So if Ramon Ramirez makes a mistake, and he's not made many mistakes at all this year, Zobrist could take him out of the park.
Ramirez brought over to fortify the bullpen late in games, especially when they're ahead. He's a setup man. Last year with Kansas City had a 2.64 ERA, 71 appearances. And that's down and away for a ball. 71 2/3 innings pitched. 57 hits allowed, so he was tough to hit. And nearly a strikeout per inning last year. So far with the Red Sox, a .56 ERA. 16 innings pitched, only 7 hits allowed. A slider, a cutter, down and in, 1-2 the count.
Well, Zobrist is a guy who's forcing Joe Madden to get a little more playing time. He's got 17 home runs and 262 at bats between the 2008-2009 season. So when he does get in and make contact, he can do some damage.
1-2. Too low. 2 balls, 2 strikes to count. The Rays with 3 runs, the Red Sox with 3. The Rays have not won a game this year with 3 runs scored or less. They are 0-14 if they've only scored 3 runs or less. And obviously they can't win this one if they only get 3 runs. It is 3-3 here in the 8th. Got a piece of it to stay alive. The Red Sox will have Big Papi, David Ortiz, lead off in the last of the inning with Jason Bay and Mike Lowell to follow. The fan got himself a souvenir and he gives it away.
Well, it's Mother's Day. Nice gesture there.
She is stunned. When we get our seats for Fenway, I want to sit next to that guy. Along the left field line and into the crowd. Doesn't have to be real far foul to go into the crowd down in that part of Fenway Park. Those seats have a view really unique in all of baseball. But especially when there's a tough right-handed hitter up, you got to be careful you sit down there. Balls can get there in a hurry.
Gary Sheffield in his prime could strike fear in any fan sitting down the left field line.
But a great view.
But you better be watching.
Don't take your eye off the ball. 2-2 the count is Zobrist. 2 down, nobody out. Iwamura would be next. He's got his glove. He's ready. And there is Bailey. The inning is over. David Ortiz will be coming up. Then Jason Bay and Mike Lowell. It's 3-3 as we go to the last of the 8th. Steve Phillips, Joe Morgan with you from Fenway. A new pitcher has come in for the Rays in relief of Matt Garza. The left-hander Brian Schaus. See Schaus's numbers. Only walked 2 in 10 2/3 innings. And he's in here maybe just to face one hitter, David Ortiz. They got the shift down for Big Papi. And a foul. She kind of slings it in there from the side.
Well, it's been a big night so far for us Boston fans. The Bruins have won and the Celtics have won, and the Red Sox have a chance to make it a sweep for the professional team.
Ortiz looking for his first home run of the year.
Big Baby hit the game-winning shot for the Celtics. They want Big Papi to hit the game-winning shot here. You see the numbers versus Brian Schaus. Pretty good numbers against the sidearm lefty.
But as we all know, that was a different Ortiz who was swinging the bat in those days. There it is.
Left center field. Crawford. Off the wall. Upton drops it. Didn't matter. Ortiz has a double one way or the other.
And that's the difference in what one of the things we were talking about with Ortiz. You don't just go the other way. You drive the ball the other way. And he does so here. Not a bad pitch, a little breaking ball, but it was over the plate. It's supposed to be down and away. And Ortiz goes the other way with it. But he drives it that way. He didn't just push it over there. And David was hustling into second base for a double.
Joe Madden's going to make another pitching change. And Schaus was not able to get his man. Dan Wheeler will come in. And the big RBI man, Jason Bay, coming up. It's 3-3, 8th inning. The Boston bullpen. So here's Wheeler, and the tie is what needs saving right here for the Rays. 3-3, and you've got Jason Bay, and this is where he has been lethal late in tight games. Boston's RBI leader. The slider, and Ortiz will go to third.
Well, you don't need to bunt him over if you throw a wild pitch on the first pitch. You not have to hit it to the right side to get him over. Now, I really think that you have to think about pinch running for David Ortiz here if you're Terry Francona.
Now, the only thing is he's got a very almost nobody on the bench.
Well, but you're not going to have, hopefully if you get this run home, you won't have to bat again. You won't have to make any other moves.
But if you put one of your 2 non-pitchers in to run for him,
right,
and you don't score, and when somebody else gets hurt, you might end up losing your DH.
Well, right now, winning the game is more important than thinking about the 12th inning.
Infield in halfway up the middle. Jason Bay takes a strike.
You see what happens here with David Ortiz at third. They don't have to play the infield in. They can play halfway. You see what I mean? If you got a faster runner in, you have to play in tighter and the ball will go through. So you help in a lot of ways.
They do have Rocco Baldelli, and he is pretty fast.
Yeah,
the former Ray.
But see, they're almost at regular depth there.
1 ball, 1 strike.
Well, don't worry about it.
High in the air, deep into left field. Crawford all the way back. It's off the wall. Ortiz scores the go-ahead run. A double for Bay, and he does it again.
You know, I was talking about this earlier today, that this guy has really, you know, made it okay that Manny's not here, because he's one of the guys that just comes in and does his job day in and day out. They love him in the clubhouse, and he has been big time in these types of situations. And we see Poppy a little happier about his flight tonight than he was earlier, slamming the helmet around. Or again, it's because people are counting on him, and he came through this time. But Jason Bay, you can't say enough about him and what he's done, because he came into a very difficult situation replacing Manny Ramirez last year, and he did a great job for him.
71 RBIs in 81 games as a member of the Red Sox. Mike Lowell, who has 28 RBIs. 1 ball and no strikes to count. Lowell is 1 for 3 in this game. But this year, coming into this game, Jason Bay hitting .371 in his at-bats with runners in scoring position. But you go 7th inning or later in a tight game, and it's way above that.
And with a lot of home runs as well.
And he was going to steal third base there, and a good job just to stop him, because he was about to take off.
Look what he's hitting in the 7th inning or later. 5 of his home runs have come in the 7th inning or later. 13 of his RBIs, both at the top of the American League. And he is at second with nobody out. Lowell
trying to shoot the ball to the other side, John. Just trying to move him over.
Might get an insurance run, and you know, the Red Sox front office will tell you that Jason Bay is a better base runner than they thought. He is a solid base runner. Not a big base stealer, as we've been talking about tonight, but a guy who just has great instincts on the bases. He can steal a base. He can steal third base, but he also gets great jumps. He can go first to third, score from second on a single. Good secondary lead, fundamentally sound in just about every aspect of the game. Not as good defensively as they thought, but everything else even better.
He's at second, nobody out. 1 ball, 1 strike to Lowell. And he breaks for third. There's nobody to throw to at third. So Wheeler, who wanted to make a play on him, but Longoria had gone in the direction of the ball. So, and fortunately for the Rays, Wheeler figured that out and went ahead and threw the ball to first base to get Lowell, who has moved that runner along.
Well, you're just talking about base running. You don't have to steal bases all the time. Just make good decisions. This ball is chopped. I don't know how good a decision it was. It turned out to be a good decision, because Longoria had to go and try to cut the ball off. If Longoria doesn't leave third, then of course they have him a play on him at third base. But now he's over at third base with less than 2 outs.
You know, I think he hesitated for a moment. I don't know if we saw it in that last replay. I think he saw Longoria leave the base vacant, and that's when he decided to go for it.
Well, that would make what I said make me feel a little bit better. But I have to say that when I saw him going, I got a little bit worried right there.
I did too.
He was running into an out, so I'm relieved.
They're walking Drew intentionally, the left-handed hitter, with the right-handed hitting Jeff Bailey on deck. And the Rays do have a left-hander up in their bullpen, J.P. Howell. But in this instance, manager Joe Madden says, well, let's just walk that guy and let my right-hander face the right-handed hitter. J.P. Howell up in the Tampa Bay bullpen. Coming up next on ESPN SportsCenter, with Matt Weiner and Steve Levy. And a lot of sweeps this weekend in Major League Baseball. I'll tell you about it. The Brooms were out. And the Rockets, how about that? Without Yao Ming, they still crushed the Lakers. And Joe, what's happened to Tiger? Steve, any thoughts?
Well, I mean, the other guys are playing better. I mean, they're playing great. A lot of the guys are handling the course really well. But wait till after the U.S. Open, then ask me that.
He needs to go to Joe for tips is what he needs to do, right? Work for David Ortiz tonight.
But he has been un-Tiger-like down the stretch a couple of times lately. But after the U.S. Open, then I'll have a better feel.
Jeff Bailey, 1 for 2 in the game. He hit a double and scored a run in the 4th. He's got runners at first and third here. The Red Sox have an opportunity to open up this lead. They have scored once. Ortiz led off the inning with a double. And then Jason Bay doubled him home as Boston played a little wall ball. Both of them scraping high fly balls off that left field wall. 1 ball and no strikes. Middle infield double play depth. Came after him with a high fastball, fouled, and the count. A ball and a strike to Bailey.
If you're going to get the double play, you can't get it up there. That high fastball is going to go in the air.
Third base coach for the Red Sox, DeMarlo Hale, flashing signs. Bailey took a look. So did Drew, the runner at first, who's being held in the bag by Ibar. Papelbon getting ready for the 9th inning of the Boston bullpen. Don't forget, because he wasn't in the starting lineup today, that Madden still has his slugger, the major's leading home run hitter this year so far, Carlos Pena, on the bench, whom he could use as a pinch hitter in the 9th inning. There's Pena. That's a called strike. 1-2, but up again.
Carlos Pena 1 for 3 with a home run against Papelbon, so some history there.
That is the one cool aspect of having a great slugger that you don't have in the starting lineup. You have a chance in a tight game to put him up whenever you think is just the right spot.
Makes the bench better for sure.
1-2. Oh man, that was a great breaking ball for the strikeout. So Bailey did not get that runner home from third.
Going back to Pena, though, maybe if he was in the lineup, you wouldn't be trailing by 1 run right now. maybe he would have put you ahead by hitting the ball out of the ballpark somewhere along the line.
And maybe he would have kept that first run from scoring.
Right. Good point. Very good
ground ball went to the backup. Ibar was playing first base tonight, and he could not handle the ball cleanly, but then still made a throw home. An ill-advised throw home, and that's how Boston got its first run of the game.
But remember, we're talking about defense being more important. 2 of the Boston runs have come on misplays by the Rays.
Their third run of the game, a pop fly that should have been the final out of an inning. And Zobrist did not take charge. The ball did not get past Navarro, although at first he feared it had. He immediately spun around to look back to the backstop, and the ball was right at his feet. Nobody moved up. 1 ball and no strikes to count to Jason Varitek.
Ball skipped underneath him a little bit, hit Scott Berry, the home plate umpire's foot. Otherwise, it might have trickled away. And it was one of those ones where he wasn't really sure where the ball had gone.
Scott Berry looked like the goaltender for the Boston Bruins tonight. Runners at first and third, 2 down. 4-3, Boston ahead. And a foul ball. Varitek hit a double down the left field line in the 4th inning to knock in the go-ahead run for Boston. At the time, it was a 1-1 game, and he hit a 2-out 4th inning double. And the Red Sox have been prolific knocking in runs after there have been 2 men out in an inning. 45% of their runs this year have been knocked in after 2 were down. Varitek trying to add to that total. And a foul out of play. So now Wheeler's ahead of him. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Remember, Papelbon will be coming on in the 9th. The Rays are scheduled to have Iwamura, a left-handed hitter, Bartlett, a right-handed hitter, and then Navarro, the switch hitting catcher. And they do have Carlos Pena, there's slugging first baseman, available on the bench. They also have Gabe Gross, another left-handed hitter, whom they could use. The question is it going to be a one-run game, or is it going to be a bigger deficit? The runner from first goes right field. There is Zobrist, and Wheeler does a good job in preventing further damage. So now Papelbon, a safe situation thanks to David Ortiz and Jason Bay playing wall ball. Ortiz doubled off the wall, and Bay doubled him home. 4-3, Boston on to the ninth. The strains of "I'm shipping up to Boston" by the dropkick Murphys has come on to pitch. Papelbon, 7 saves in 7 save chances, 13 innings, 15 strikeouts, a 1.38 ERA. He throws hard, and he's tough to make contact against.
Well, he has an outstanding arm. There's no question about it. Now, he's changed his delivery a little bit to try to get more power. But one of the things that's happened this year is that hitters, he's not throwing as many strikes with the fastball. They're not swinging him and missing as much at the fastball. And they're fouling off more fastballs when they do swing. And he's had to throw more pitches in innings to get people out. The question is not his effectiveness now, but will he run out of gas later in the year?
So Iwamura will lead off against him. And Carlos Pena has a helmet on. He has a bat in hand. And surely he will come up in this inning at some point.
Not an enviable task, though, because sitting on the bench that long, cold, and then have to go up there and face someone who throws as hard as Papelbon. Not a great situation.
Strike one called at 94 miles an hour right on the outside corner. By the way, we were very sad to learn this week of the death of Dominic DiMaggio, 92 years old, former Red Sox All-Star, 7 times an All-Star, 11 seasons with Boston, plus the 3 years that he spent in the Navy during World War II. Ted Williams called him the greatest outfielder he'd ever seen and a great leadoff man. Once had a 34-game hitting streak that was ended by his brother Joe DiMaggio, the legendary Yankee Clipper who made a great catch on his line drive in his final at bat. Dominic DiMaggio, a great ball player and he will be missed. There's the ball very high. And it is 2-1. We also want to send along our best wishes to Jerry Remy, the president of Red Sox Nation and the outstanding analyst on Red Sox television on the New England Sports Network. Ren Dog.
Very good second baseman. Nice guy.
Get well soon.
Just off the outside, it's 3-1. Jerry Remy was a base stealer.
Yeah. Left-handed good hitter, second baseman.
3-1 the count to Iwamura. Just trying to get on base here with his club down by a run. And Carlos Pena sitting in the dugout with a bat. And he has gotten on board a leadoff walk. And now Jason Bartlett is going to come to the plate. Iwamura has stolen a base tonight and has stolen 7 bases in 7 tries this year. So what are you thinking? What's the strategy here? Is he going to bunt, hit and run, steal a base, and then bunt him over? What are they doing? Because if he bunts him over, they could pitch around.
Well, I don't think they would pitch around, but I don't think they're going to bunt him over either.
Bartlett 0 for 2 with a sacrifice fly. He hit him with the throw. Iwamura gets up, going for second. Bailey's throw. Chase.
We talked about Carlos Pena not in the lineup for the Tampa Bay Rays, and defensively it impacted them. And now without Kevin Youkilis in there, the throw over just gets into the runner a little bit into Iwamura. It's an error on Papelbon, and Iwamura gets up quickly, gets into position, and beats the throw from Bailey.
So now the possible tying run is at second base with nobody out. Lowell very shallow at third in case of the bunt. He was given, again, no indication of bunting. The count goes to 2-0.
Very few managers will bunt on the road to tie the game. You kind of play for the lead on the road because their home team always has the last at bat.
Talked earlier, Bartlett hitting .351 this year. He's handled the bat very well. Does a good job staying inside the ball, looking to drive it to right field.
The count 1-0. That was the first pitch to Bartlett. Right up the middle, base hit. Iwamura waited to make sure it goes through, and he stops at third. Iwamura wanted to make sure nobody caught that ball before he took off for third.
Well, good job. I told you about Bartlett. He seems to do whatever is necessary, to help his team win. He may not be a great RBI man or whatever, but he does the job. He's trying to shoot this ball to the right side, but he goes back through the middle with it, and it's a base hit. And Iwamura was making sure, as you said, John, that it got through, but it was a base hit all the way because the second baseman was moving away from the play.
So now Pena as the pinch hitter. He leads the major leagues in home runs. And he hit a very dramatic home run against Papelbon last year. Called a strike on the outside.
And the Red Sox, of course, are playing back. They're going to give up the tying run if they can get the ground ball for the double play.
Papelbon looking for a strikeout in this situation. Pena 41 strikeouts this year, so a guy that can swing and miss.
And Bartlett, the runner at first, has stolen 6 bases this year, only been caught once. Bailey on the bag with him. Just off the inside. Had a little movement coming back to the plate, too.
He wanted that pitch. You throw it right at the lead elbow, just below the elbow, trying to get that high zone there. Left-handers tend to have the uppercut swing. You're hoping to, if you don't get a swing and a miss, to get the call.
Carlos Pena, born in the Dominican Republic, but his family moved up here just outside of Boston to Haverhill. Later, he went to Northeastern University here in Boston. just off the outside. 2-1 the count. Big pitch from Papelbon to the dangerous Carlos Pena. Check swing. No, says third base umpire Tim Welke on the appeal. No swing. 3-1.
Papelbon's tried to stay away from him, and then he tried to go upstairs because Pena's a good low ball hitter, and he wasn't able to get the ball in the strike zone. He's missing away and he's missing up.
3-1 to the dangerous Pena. 13 homers, 32 batted in. Runners at first and third, nobody out. 97-mile-an-hour heat up. 3-2.
Well, good spot for that kind of velocity.
Papelbon thrown 12 pitches, 8 balls, 4 strikes, a wild pickoff throw, but he needs to throw a strike right here.
Leadoff man B.J. Upton on deck. There goes Bartlett from first. Strike 3. No throw to second. So Pena down on strikes. He got the strikeout he was looking for.
Well, he tried to put him away with a high fastball earlier. You can see gets him to chase the 3-1 fastball up. Not necessarily out of the strike zone, but he gets him to chase it. And this one he just completely confused on because the ball was tailing away. That's where he was trying to pitch him at the beginning of the at-bat. Fastballs away, and he was missing.
But now 2 runners in scoring position. They pulled in at the corners for B.J. Upton, who's had a single and a double in this game. He scored a run. And he blows that fastball right by him, a foul tip into Varitek's glove.
Well, one of the things you have when you look at the Rays, you have all strikeout possibilities because last year B.J. struck out 134 times, Burrow struck out 137, Pena 166, Longoria 122 in a short period of time, and even Iwamura struck out 131 times. So you have a lot of candidates for that strikeout in these situations.
Upton has struck out 33 times this year. Strike 2.
Talked earlier about the visiting team doesn't like to sacrifice bunt to play for the tie. But Terry Francona has the middle infielders back in this situation. He'll give up the 1 run, but doesn't want a ground ball to get through to give up both runs.
Lowell at third and Bailey at first are both pulled in almost to the infield grass, but Lugo at short and Green at second are back near the outfield grass. Strike 2 to Upton. Off to a very slow start after his shoulder surgery in the offseason. And he was not able to start the season on time. He opened the year on the disabled list. Now Varitek out to talk to Papelbon. Now in regular season play, Upton has had 5 career at-bats against Papelbon without a hit, and Papelbon has struck him out 3 of those 5 times.
The one question is, and again, he may not throw the split to the right-handed hitter, but with a man on third base, would he even consider going to the split that could bounce in the dirt?
Iwamura runs pretty well, the possible tying run over third base. Carl Crawford on deck. 4-3 Red Sox in the ninth. Runners at second and third, 1 out. 2 strikes to count. Stays with the heat.
That was just a waste pitch. He wanted to see if he would go upstairs, but he didn't want that in the strike zone.
Well, most of Papelbon's fastballs have been up in the zone. If he could bury one down and away and change the eye level for Upton, coming back from sore shoulder, he probably can get it.
And Papelbon with the look.
Again, there are a lot of candidates on this ball club for a strikeout. And when you have the power and the of a Papelbon, they're all very susceptible. And that's the high fastball he gets Upton with. Well, you can see what he wants to do. He wants to pitch him up, preferably in. That ball, the two pitches are in. Waste one upstairs. Another high fastball, and let's see you later. But at first they were trying to pitch him high and tight. After he got 2 strikes, he just went up the ladder a little bit more.
Now Crawford, and he has been hot. He's 2 for 4 tonight, a single and a double.
I'm not so sure he's going to really go after Crawford. He may just try to get him to go out of the strike zone. I know Longoria is on deck, but if you're Papelbon, you may feel like you have a better shot against Longoria than you do the hot Crawford.
Crawford, 2 for 4 in this game. Scored 1 and knocked home 1. The Rays need him to knock in at least 1 to stay alive.
Well, if he swings with that one up there, he's going to be a candidate too for the strikeout.
One reason Carl Crawford's tough is that infield hit. 12 infield hits this year. If he puts it in play, we saw it early in the game, the ground ball to Mike Lowell. But I'll tell you what, I would much rather, even if Crawford's hot, I'd go at him over Longoria. Longoria scares me.
Well, see, I'm just the opposite in this situation with a guy like Papelbon. Hard as he's throwing, you have less chance of picking the ball up if you're from the right side than you do the left side.
A ball and a strike to the red-hot Crawford, who's hitting .336 for the year.
Pretty good speed on second base with Bartlett. Bay in left field, an average arm. Ellsbury slightly below average. J.D. Drew, an average arm in right.
There's Longoria, the Major League's leading RBI producer. On deck. 2 down. 2 balls and a strike.
I don't really think he's going after Crawford. He got him to chase the high fastball, and he's going to see if he can get him to chase another one. If he chases it, then he'll go after him with 2 strikes. But I really think that he's better off. He thinks he's better off against Papelbon. I really do. I mean, against Longoria.
Which sort of illustrates the dire predicament he's in.
Right.
But he struck out 2 in a row.
There it is, the high fastball. If he gets him to swing at it, he's happy with it. If he doesn't, he's not going to. I think now he's got to go after it with another one.
So he is 1 strike away from saving this one for the Red Sox. The Rays are a hit away from either tying the game or going ahead. With Iwamura at third and the fleet-footed Bartlett, the possible go-ahead run at second. He struck him out!
High fastball.
That is doing it the hard way. 2 men on, nobody out, and then he strikes out the side.